Chapter 458. Action. You went out robbing? Zuoyamo looked at the little mountain of ling plants and grains and felt dizzy. Rob. Pu Yao snorted. Is just this little bit of stuff is worth robbing? Zuoyamo might have had some wealth before. But when had he ever seen so much ling grasses and grains? His eyes were bright as he walked around the little mountain, his lips trembling. How much jingsher would this be? Pu Yao was speechless. He suddenly found this slightly embarrassing. His student, the student of an honored Sky Yao, was like this. Just this little bit was enough to make the other speechless. So embarrassing. It was very embarrassing. If people knew that his student was so weak. Even Pu Yao, who had skin as thick as city walls, felt his face burn. From the Tian family? Zuomo's reaction was not slow. He suddenly looked with enthusiasm at Pu Yao. Let's go on a trip again. Amidst Wei's roaring laughter, Pu Yao turned and left with a black face. Having gotten a great sum of wealth, Zuoyamo felt very good and was not angry. The direction of the cultivation classes was also very good, each cultivation class growing from 50 people per class to 200. Adding on that the classes overflowed with students who listened. They were so popular that even Zuoyamo found it hard to believe. What caused Zuoyamo to feel a headache was that the number was still growing at a rapid rate, but the number of teachers was limited. Cheng Shidi had come over to complain to him multiple times that his normal cultivation and livestock raising was affected by the high numbers. There was only Cheng Shidi for the animal husbandry classes, and for sword cultivation, no one could help with Xieshan and eldest Shixiang's classes. The same was true for Zhongru and Yi Zheng's cultivation class, as they were the only two Diana Xiu on the island. It was also the same for his ling plant farming class. There was only him. Seeing so many pleading and hunger, oh no, so many jingsher that was lining up outside the door but could not enter his wallet, that feeling really wasn't good. What to do? Zuoyamo rubbed his chin and started to think. The shocking amount of ling grasses and grains caused all of Golden Crow Camp to turn out in smiles. Nothing was liked more by the Golden Crow group other than a large supply of raw materials. Most of them were skilled in forging and were not experts in dan making or cooking, but so what? Each of them had Golden Crow fire, and there were jade scrolls among their collection. As long as they had the materials, they could naturally practice their skills. Even more, although their fire manipulation techniques could not be said to be masterful, they were still very practiced. Many people were interested in learning another processing method. Zuoyamo did not care about their failures since they had gotten these things for free. Also, if even half of these ling grasses could be processed in ling dan, then the profit would also be astounding. However, not everyone was happy. The two masters Sun Bao and Ji Wei had furrowed their brows at this moment. Compared to the heartless joy of the young people, the two of them had more pressure. They knew the state of the island very well. That day, when Darren gathered everyone together to discuss how to make jingsher, they understood their precarious state. In order to use the abundant ling fields on the island, that required ling plant farming talismans. Plant farming talismans were not difficult to make, and the two masters were familiar with the talismans on the market. But if what was used were the ling plant farming talismans from the market, the ling fields on the island would not be completely used. There was only one way if they wanted to use all the ling fields on the island. That was to forge enough outstanding ling plant farming talismans, to forge talismans that could replace ling plant farmers. In simple words, the two masters looked down on the ling plant farming talismans on the market. After 20 more days, these MO weapons will gradually take form. Shu Long's steady voice echoed in the cave. The cave they had dug was not large. Presently, Olive Guard Camp had moved into this deep cave called the Een Spirit Cave. This cave was extremely heavy with Een energy, which became denser the deeper they dug, and was very beneficial for the cultivation of Shu Long and the others. Owen looked eagerly at the MO weapons floating in the pool and asked, Long Ji, do you think that the power of the MO weapons is really that great? Wouldn't you know when it is time? Shu Long said with a smile. He was very soft towards Owen. Darren really bled this time. Owen said in shock. Just the materials cost 10 pieces of 5th grade jingsher. It's amazing. The surface of the inky black pool did not ripple. And if one smelled from a distance, there was the scent of medicine. This was a pool that Xu Long had set up according to the directions of the mysterious Darren. As to the effects, he did not have any confidence. When he thought about the tincture that passed through his hands, he felt a thread of warmth. He was no longer that Xiao slave that didn't understand the value of tincture any longer. 10 pieces of 5th grade tincture, if that was used to buy Xiao slaves, it would be a vast number. Darren was really good to everyone. Thinking about this and the present guard camp, he felt a thread of guilt. Of the entire guard camp, other than he and a one who could be considered experts, all others were just average. Compared to Vermilion Bird Camp, this result was not very good. To say nothing of the two Jindan, Xie Shan and Zhong Ru, even Ma Fan, Nian Lu, and Lei Peng were just a step away from Jindan. He definitely had to train this group well and not waste Darren's efforts. As he paced, Xu Long made the decision. He quickly came to the deepest part of the cave. What entered his eyes was a busy scene. He could occasionally see sparks flying and crisp sounds ringing out. What is the problem? Xu Long asked the hardship guard. The hardship guard showed a grimace. It is too hard. The deeper we go, the harder it gets. I've dug for half a day, and just gotten a little piece out. There's not much progress. Hearing this, Xu Long went forward and punched the stone. He heard a muffled sound and fine cracks appeared around his fist while a few fragments fell. He wiped away the fragments and saw there was a shallow pit on the rock. So hard. Xu Long was shocked. With the power of his punch, he was only able to make such a small indentation. He picked up a piece of fragmented rock and grasped it in his hand. He had an expression of realization. The rock had been immersed in this thick Yin energy for tens of thousands of years, and was as hard as steel. Gripping it, he could clearly feel the pure Yin energy contained inside. And everyone work harder. This is a good place. When we dig out a bigger cave, everyone can live here for the long term. This place is suited for our cultivation. Xu Long motivated everyone. Another hardship guard said, if you are speaking about cultivation, digging this stuff is the best cultivation. Xu Long's mind moved. The others talked and laughed. Haha, that's right. I've dug for a few days, and felt I've improved greatly. I assumed that only I had had that feeling. So everyone feels it. That's nothing strange. The rock is this hard. If we do not use killing essence, we can't dig. This isn't digging a hole, this is fighting. Hearing this, Xu Long suddenly realized this was a clever way. Having been bothered that he did not have any ways of helping everyone cultivate, Xu Long's eyes instantly lit up. Lu Wei was very happy. He had actually made a breakthrough on his fire spell soon after registering for his class. He had studied this fire spell for 3 years and progressed quickly until half a year ago when he could not enter a higher level no matter how hard he practiced. Due to this, he had registered for many classes, but there was no effect until he had gone to the present class. Just a few of the teacher's words had made him feel his vision broadened. After listening for 5 days, he smoothly broke through to the 4th level of the fire spell. This teacher was really good. The teacher looked younger than Lu Wei, and he hadn't expected the teacher to be so strong. It wasn't just him, all the students admired the teacher. The fire spell he cultivated was 2nd grade, but now that he cultivated it to the 4th level, the value was instantly different. An even better job was waving its hands at him. Thinking about how his monthly wages would double in the future, Lu Wei was very happy. He excitedly ran to a Ling materials shop. This shop always was hiring year-round. 2nd grade 4th level was enough for him to enter the Ling grass room and become a Ling grass fire worker to work in Ling grass. Compared to his Dan fire labor in the past, it would be much easier and the wages higher. Hearing he was coming to apply as a Ling grass fire worker, the shopkeeper instantly came out. These days, it was hard to find a good Ling grass fire worker. The shopkeeper first got him to show his fire spell, and was very satisfied with his 2nd grade 4th level strength. Just as Lu Wei thought the shopkeeper would agree, the shopkeeper suddenly seemed to remember something and asked him, "Where do you attend cultivation class?" "Copper Alley, the Ling plant farming cultivation class of Turtle Island," Lu Wei said with slight pride. "I was part of the first batch." Right now, everyone coveted the spots in the Turtle Island cultivation classes to an astonishing degree. Even though Turtle Island cultivation classes were generous and did not stop them from listening from outside the class, it was not possible to see the displays of the teacher, and the effects of the lessons naturally decreased. So what was occurring was that it was hard to buy a Turtle Island cultivation class spot with 1,000 jingsher. Sorry, we do not hire the students from Turtle Island cultivation class. The storekeeper politely gave the order to leave. Lu Wei instantly was dumbstruck. Why don't you hire students from Turtle Island cultivation class? The shopkeeper looked at him and said, we do not accept you, you can try at other places. Finishing, the shopkeeper disregarded him and went back inside. Feeling very angry, Lu Wei went to another store. What he had not expected was that this store also did not accept students from Turtle Island cultivation class. Lu Wei did not believe his bad luck. He went to 8 shops and none of them accepted students from Turtle Island cultivation class. Lu Wei felt hopeless. In the afternoon, the news that all shops of Suling City refused to hire those from Turtle Island cultivation class spread through Suling City. Chapter 459 Counterattack Reality was stronger than the fortitude of most people. When all the businesses in Suling City gathered together to restrict students of Turtle Island cultivation classes, the attendance rates were heavily affected. Anyone that was intelligent and could see what was going on. Some students were not afraid and did not care. So what if they could not find a job in Suling City? They could travel to other cities. As long as they cultivated good spells, where couldn't they find a job? But not every student had such courage, and not every person was willing to run to an unfamiliar city and start a new life. The number of people in Turtle Island cultivation class had instantly lessened. Having been contemplating on how to expand the classes, Zuomo was dumbstruck. It had just been a few days, how come it was like this? He hurriedly sent Shang Weiming to investigate. The businesses thought they were extremely strong, and did not disguise anything. Shang Weiming quickly came back with news. When Zuomo learned it was the Tian family again, he instantly became angry. We haven't even settled the ambush last time, and you come to challenge us again. How can this be tolerated? Zuomo had planned on letting Pu Yao torment the Tian family, but now he rolled up his sleeves and decided to act himself. Zuomo was clueless and couldn't think of good ways to make money, but if he was thinking about doing devious things, Zuomo seemed to be shot up with adrenaline and instantly became excited. Gu really isn't a good person. Zuomo sighed emotionally and then threw himself into the grand matter of exacting vengeance on the Tian family. But upon reflection, Zuomo felt this was not something bad. With their manpower, expansion of the classes was akin to seeking death. The cultivation classes were much quieter than before, but that was only when compared with the explosive and increase in attendance. There were many Xiozha who did not worry about being blocked out, and they were overjoyed at having the free spots in class. Even more importantly, the excited Zuomo thought of a wondrous idea. Is there something you need? The person receiving Zuomo was a middle-aged man. Oh, I want to discuss a partnership with your sect, Zuomo said. Partnership? The middle-aged male's eyes lit up. Business. Earth Sound Sect was a small sect. Their most famous product was the large sound tablet formation that could broadcast across the entire city. The male at the front of the store was their sect leader, Yinling Zi. If Yinling Zi was not clever and creative, the Earth Sound sect would have died out long ago. Through his efforts, the sound tablet program, Earth Sound, was produced in an interesting manner, and had a broad audience in Suling City. But their present days were not easy. The popularity of their Earth Sound program was slowly declining. This caused a great headache for him, but he did not have many solutions. Suling City was still a small place. Earth Sound sect was also a small sect. He could create higher-grade sound tablet formations, but he could not afford it. Also, the expenditure of higher-grade sound tablet formations was also astounding. Yinlingzi instantly became warm and had a smile on his face. Please come in, please come in. Zuomo's group walked into Earth Sound sect, and Yinlingzi carefully took out his last bits of Ling tea and brewed it. After sitting down and taking a sip of Ling tea, Zuomo stated his intentions. I have come this time in the hope we can use the Earth Sound program your sect broadcasts to advertise the products of our island. No problem, no problem. Yinlingzi was overjoyed and still asked out of caution, "What Cloud Island is your island?" Zuemo smiled. "We are Turtle Island." Turtle Island? Yinlingzi's expression changed dramatically, and thoughts of refusal rose. How could he not know the conflict between Turtle Island and the Tian family? The Tian family was the second largest faction in Suling City, ranked under Suling sect. The depth of its foundation was far bigger than an outsider like Turtle Island. If they offended the Tian family, a little sect like Earth Sound Sect's days would be at an end. What? Your sect will not accept this business? Zuemo smiled thinly at Yinlingzi. Yinlingzi hadn't spoke when he saw Zuemo casually put something on the table. When he saw what it was, Yinlingzi's eyes could not move away. 10 pieces of 4th grade Jingshi. Yinlingzi's eyes instantly became heated as he stared at the 10 pieces of 4th grade Jingshi on the table. For Earth Sound Sect, 10 pieces of 4th grade Jingshi was about half of their annual income. Yinlingzi knew his sect was in dire straits. It was to the point they were almost destitute, and could barely afford to buy food. If they could not create more revenue, they wouldn't even have the Jingshi to maintain the large sound tablet formation. Zuemo heard the sound of Yinlingzi swallowing. Without a second word, he took out another 10 pieces of 4th grade Jingshi. Yinlingzi's breathing became heavy. His eyes instantly filled with blood and his expression slightly vicious. 20 pieces of 4th grade Jingshi. This will be the 30% deposit. Zuemo's words were like a fatal dagger that easily pierced Yinlingzi's wavering defenses. Yinlingzi felt his mind suddenly become blank. He leapt at the Jingshi. What Tian family? They can go to hell. Zhu Zheng's mood was strange. He had a particular sense of ennui. His workmates watched him, each gleeful at his misfortune. Just a few days ago, all of them looked at him with completely different gazes. As one of the members of the first batch of students in the Turtle Island cultivation classes, he had had shockingly good luck. When the spot for a cultivation class was being auctioned off at a sky-high prices on the black market, while others could only sit in the alleys and listen, he was sitting in the hall and listening to Teacher Cheng's husbandry class. That was really a great happiness. Yet what he had never expected was the shopkeeper had quickly found him, and told him if he continued to attend the Turtle Island cultivation class, he would be fired. Helpless, he could only leave the cultivation class to keep his work. The admiring and jealous gazes of the surrounding people instantly became gleeful. Yet what Zhu Zheng had not expected was that the spells and formations that Teacher Cheng spoke about in class would unconsciously creep into his thoughts. Zhu Zhen had attended many cultivation classes before, and Teacher Cheng's skill would be ranked first. He held admiration for Teacher Cheng. Just those high-level spells that Teacher Cheng spoke about casually filled him with motivation. He seemed to be daydreaming constantly these days, and was inattentive with his work. The shopkeeper had scolded him many times over this. Why was it like this? Zhu Zhen really felt bad inside. He felt that the Turtle Island cultivation class was very good. Life had returned to normal. Zhu Zhen knew that the dissatisfaction in his heart would dissipate with time and be worn down. Everyone worked in the same place, and due to the work being repetitive and boring, they would have a sound tablet to listen to when they worked. The shopkeeper had seen that it did not distract them, so he had not forbidden it. Suddenly, the content broadcasted by the sound tablet caused Zhu Zhen to stop what he was doing. Due to too many students being unable to enter our island's cultivation class, we feel great regret and also blame ourselves. Teaching spells is the duty of every one of us Xiozha. Due to this, we have now produced the Turtle series Jade Scrolls, topic ranging from ling plants to animal husbandry, from Sword Xiu to Diana Xiu. We have made many kinds of detailed and informative Jade Scrolls. We hope that the students that are unable to attend our cultivation classes, due to various reasons, can cultivate by themselves through the Jade Scrolls. Everyone couldn't help but stop what they were doing and listen closely. Zhu Zhen's eyes slowly became bright. Everyone thought that Turtle Island could do nothing when facing such a powerful alliance of local powers, and could only retreat. It was unexpected that Turtle Island's counterattack was so quick, so sharp, and so precise. Suling City that had just quieted down, but now exploded like a bomb had been set off. The sound tablet advertised the Turtle Island Jade Scroll series all day. The provocative shouts seemed to throw hot oil onto Suling City. What? You did not hear it wrong. 998, only 998. Not 9,998, or 1,998. 998. 998. Just 998. You can move the Turtle Island Jade Scrolls series to your home. This is a special promotion intended to repay students for supporting our Turtle Island cultivation classes. 998 pieces of 3rd grade Jingshi, the entire set of Turtle Island Jade Scrolls series. What we are looking at now is the Fire Spells Jade Scroll of the Turtle Island series. This Jade Scroll introduces 5 kinds of commonly seen 2nd grade fire spells, and has detailed instructions on every level. The price is 1 piece of 3rd grade Jingshi. Without a doubt, this is definitely the spell Jade Scroll with the best value for your money this year. What? You think that 2nd grade fire spells are too low grade? No problem, here is a 3rd grade fire spell Jade Scroll. Heavens, you have not heard it wrong. 3rd grade fire spell. Everyone is clear what the price on the market is for this, but for just 100 pieces of 3rd grade Jingshi and you can possess this. Turtle Island Jade Scroll series, made personally by the masters of the Turtle Island. Works that cannot be surpassed. Turtle Island Fundamental Spell Commentary, the best commentary Jade Scroll to learn cultivation on your own. One of the most detailed basic spell commentaries on the market. What should you do when you encounter a problem? Don't be afraid. We have the Turtle Island Fundamental Spell Commentary. It will list all kinds of problems you may encounter. It is an example of, with 1 scroll in hand, the world in hand. Suling City exploded. Completely exploded. No matter what conflict existed between Turtle Island and the business of Suling City, these students only needed what could help them actually learn. The effects of the Turtle Island cultivation classes had reached a mythical level, and the students that had personally experienced it were extremely confident. Any shoujo with any ambition would always hope they could learn higher-level spells. When the businesses used the power of an alliance to stop them from attending the Turtle Island cultivation classes, they were angry inside. The perceptive ones knew this was Turtle Island's counterattack. Yeah, so you won't hire the students of Turtle Island cultivation class, then I will directly sell Jade Scrolls. You can't check for this. How can you detect where one learned these low-grade spells from? Many cultivation classes teach the same spells. The advertising seemed to bombard them without exhaustion. No business would sell them, no problem. The sword shio that could be seen everywhere on the street wearing 4th grade Cold Soul Blue light armor were selling them. 2,000 sword shio in full armor turned to streams that filled almost every corner of Suling City. They stepped on their sword lights as they murderously passed by every business as though they did not exist. Beside them were buckets of Jade Scrolls piled up like lettuce. The businesses shuddered and no one dared to make a sound. Arrogant. Too arrogant. Domineering. Too domineering. Chapter 460. Experts, they dare to be so arrogant. Tian Yongqing's gaze was dark. He definitely had not expected this group to be so reckless and heedless. Were they unafraid of offending the other powers in Suling City? They did not fear they would earn the displeasure of Suling sect? Were they showing off their martial power? Yes, they were showing off their martial power. 2,000 sword shio entering the city to sell Jade Scrolls. What was that if not showing off? Tian Hengbo was so angry his face was almost twisted together. Tian Yongqing felt as though he had swallowed a fly. He found to his shock that he didn't have any good solutions. Turtle Island dared to send 2,000 sword shio, but he did not dare. He believed with Tianyi Battalion's power, they could take care of these 2,000 sword shio blink of an eye. But he did not dare to do so. If this kind of large-scale conflict happened in Suling City, that was a challenge to Suling sect. The Tian family might be the second most powerful faction in Suling City, but if they had to fight against Suling sect, Tian Yongqing did not have any confidence in their chances. If it was not a life-or-death situation, the Tian family definitely would not dare to provoke Suling sect. But if he allowed the other to keep going, wasn't that another way of admitting that his side was not as good as the other? This caused Tian Yongqing and the others to feel uncomfortable. Even the business that were in alliance with the Tian family felt uncomfortable. The common saying was that the strong dragon could not suppress the local snakehead, but they, the local snakeheads, had no way of dealing with this group. This was an embarrassment. Everyone had to stay and live in Su Ling City in the future. Where could they show their faces? Brother Tian, you have to think of a solution. These outsiders are so arrogant. They do not even acknowledge us. How dare they? How dare they? We definitely cannot accept this. The owner of a shop couldn't resist but say furiously. His words instantly caused a chorus of agreement. Yes. How can we let these outsides step over our heads? If word spread, we would be ashamed to see other people. Too arrogant. If we don't teach them a lesson, they don't know how high the sky is, how thick the earth is. If I had a say, this kind of people just need a beating. Listening to everyone talk, a hint of darkness flashed through Tian Yongqing's eyes before his expression quickly became normal. He scanned the room with a smile, looking at the people and slowly said, "Bosses, you are right. Then what good ideas do you have so everyone can plan together?" Plan what? A fiery-tempered owner opened. Didn't they want to have a cultivation class? We go find some experts to sort them out, and I want to see if they still have the face to open a cultivation class. This idea is good. Good my ass, another boss said unconcernedly. Last time Gu Xiang Tian, Qing Su Daoren, and other people worked together. What was the result? Gu Xiang Tian's dead, and Qing Su Doran's 1,000-gem illusory disc was defeated. We don't even know where he fled to. Yes, a boss agreed. That high-end sword essence cultivation class, you know that one? The sword Xiao there is very powerful. The sword essence he released that day was frightening. I know a Jindan sword Xiao who told to me to never provoke this person under any circumstance. These words caused everyone to start hesitating. Tian Yongqing's face gradually darkened, especially when he heard the matter of Gu Xiang Tian being killed and Qing Su Daoren running away. The fire in his chest shot up. At the side, Tian Hengbo was going to react, but he shook his head, a signal to the other not to act. Just as everyone was clueless about what to do, Tian Yongqing smiled slightly and said slowly, "This matter, it is difficult but easy." Everyone's attention was instantly attracted. What solution does Brother Tian have? A boss asked. Tian Yongqing did not hide it. Actually, in terms of power, Turtle Island is not worth so many of us working together. To say of nothing else, just my Tian family is enough to destroy it. Tian Yongqing's tone was faint, but the domineering presence showed. Every person's heart shook simultaneously. Their expressions landed in Tian Yongqing's eyes. Tian Yongqing smiled coldly on the inside, but did not show it. However, this Suling City is the place everyone does business. Fighting and killing is not good. It is a pity that the other does not accept our goodwill. Turtle Island probably thinks that they are strong, and we are afraid of them. When he spoke of this, everyone's expressions eased and they nodded. Yes. Aren't they in need of a beating? A boss inserted. Tian Yongqing ignored the person who interrupted and continued. This group does have several experts. Jindan, that sword Xiao called Wei that boss Su just mentioned isn't low in skill. Speaking to this point, Tian Yongqing suddenly raised his volume, but everyone became alert. They knew that the meat had come. We're just going to watch as they rampage on our territory? Behave without regard? Expert? Tian Yongqing said in a disinterested tone. So what if they are experts? I've never heard of an expert this arrogant. Also, they have experts. Do we not have any? Which of the bosses here do not have one or two experts? When did it become that our Suling City is ruled by a few Jindan? These words struck the hearts of the bosses. Yes, so what if they had experts? If it was a dragon, you still had to coil up for us. So many experts, but all of them had been docile when they came to Suling City. Tian Yongqing suddenly turned his face. Boss Su, I heard you have a good relationship with Ning Yi? That boss Su seemed to wake up. Seeing everyone's gaze land on him, he couldn't help but feel smug. It can't be said to be good. I can just exchange a few words. Hearing the name Ning Yi, the expressions of many people changed as a rumble of discussion started. Ning Yi's name in Cloud Sijia was famous, and he was 32nd on the expert rankings of Cloud Sijia. This person was battle-hungry, and had a vicious and murderous personality, Of those that fought against him, if they did not die then they were wounded. Just as everyone was wondering why Tian Yongqing would mention such a vicious and infamous person, Tian Yongqing said with a slight smile, "Good boss Su, please pass a few words on for me. The Tian family is willing to give 30 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi to invite Mr. Ning to battle the sword Xiao named Wei." Hire Ningyi? The bosses first paled. The Tian family was very daring. But then they found this idea was clever. Who was Ningyi? That was a killing god that did not need a reason to kill. If this kind of person killed someone, no one would suspect them. Ningyi had a nickname called Killing God E. They were not greenhorns and knew that acting in the open, or leaving people to speculate would cause different results. What they were worried about the most was attracting the displeasure of Suling City. But if they used Tian Yongqing's idea, Suling City could not catch them or do anything. Excited, everyone sighed in shock. The Tian family was really rich. 30 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi. It was shocking to hear such a great sum. Even that Ningyi would be unable to resist such a prize. 30 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi was 30,000 pieces of 4th grade Jingshi, and would be enough to buy a good 5th grade talisman. This idea was an inspiration to the other bosses. Yes, with Jingshi, how would they lack experts? The two sides would have to fight to get a sense of the other's strength, but in terms of wealth, how could Turtle Island compare to them? Each person seated here had 1,000 Jingshi in their pockets. If it was competing on Jingshi, they would not falter. I know a disciple of Gu Minggong. Why don't we gather a gift and invite Gu Minggong? Is it Gu Minggong who has the name of Seal Immortal Gu? That's great. Add me in. Mr. Gu is 56 on the expert ranking. Add me as well. Haha, this group of outsiders, if we don't kill them, you won't feel good. I will give 5 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi. Hearing everyone open their wallets, Tian Yongqing's smile grew and even Tian Hengbo's brow relaxed. The two exchanged a look and then smiled. Everyone used their strength and quickly finalized the experts they could find. Killing Gaudy Ningyi, 32nd on the expert ranking of Cloud Sijia. Seal Immortal Gu Minggong, 56 on the expert ranking of Cloud Sijia. Eastern Cloud Buddha, Yuan Xian, 60 on the expert ranking of Cloud Sijia. When they saw this list, everyone became excited. With such a team, not just a little Turtle Island, even Tian Yongqing couldn't help but feel wary. Unless the old master could successfully break through, otherwise, the Tian family could not gather enough experts to rival this team. The only thing they could do was use the battalion to drag them down. Haha. I don't believe we can't kill them this time. This team is too strong. Are we overdoing it? A bit, but they are unlucky to have encountered us. Haha. We need to show them some power. Fighting against us, isn't that seeking death? The bosses roared with laughter and felt good about their plan. Their depressed mood of the past few days was swept away. Thinking about the scene in the future, they felt extremely excited. Seeing the scene in front of him, Tian Yongqing's heart suddenly moved. He said, "No one has seen such a grand modus operandi before. Never. Never. Other than us, who can be so grand?" The people said to each other. If this matter succeeds, our Suling City is going to be famous. Everyone is going to be famous. Who is more charismatic than us? Who has more skill than us? Who is more powerful than us? Which one in the top 100 of the expert ranking doesn't have their eyes in the sky, and is revered by many people? But so what? We need to smash them down with Jingshi. Tian Yongqing's voice was provocative as he waved his arms with an excited expression. The other people also became excited. Yes. Who would make such a grand move? So what if they were experts on the expert ranking? They could be smashed down with Jingshi. In this instantly, a feeling of grandness rose in every person seated here. They did not think highly of the people from Turtle Island. In front of such a team, Turtle Island was like a little insect. Just one little finger was enough to crush it. Turtle Island, what was that? Chapter 461. The world appended scenes of laughter and chatting was seen everywhere on Turtle Island. When the people spoke about what they did this time, all of them were excited. and they were especially satisfied when they thought about the fearful and timid gazes of those business people. "Ha, you guys don't know. When those people look at me, it was like they are looking at an ogre." Lei Peng was proud as he motioned with both hands. "You look like a ogre," Nian Lu added in a small voice. Everyone burst out in laughter, including Lei Peng himself. In the big hall, Zui Mo and the others were gathered together with bright eyes. Waiting for Bao Yi to finish calculating, Zui Mo couldn't resist asking, "How much did we sell?" The smile on Bao Yi's face was like a chrysanthemum flower blooming, but no one felt it wretched right now. Instead they looked at it with anticipation. Bao Yi's voice trembled slightly. 60 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi? Zui Mo's grin almost reached his ears. 60 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi. That really was a great sum of Jingshi. That amount surpassed the total amount of Jingshi Zui Mo had at before. In just a few days, the amount in his pocket had doubled. This was definitely a great harvest. Everyone had joyful smiles. 60 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi. That was enough to buy a 5th grade talisman. Everyone might have a golden crystal sword each, but they didn't have much Jingshi. Especially for a Jindan like Xieshan, whose other talismans were lacking except for his 5th grade golden crystal sword, the blue soul cold light armor, and the rest were slightly on the low end for a Jindan, like Xieshan. Bao Yi's face was flushed red. He had to use all his strength to make his voice steady. "It is 600 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi." All of the laughter instantly disappeared. Zui Mo's eyes were round. 600 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi? An entire set of Turtle Island Jade Scrolls was 998 3rd grade Jingshi, or about 2 pieces of 4th grade Jingshi. 600 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi was 600,000 pieces of 4th grade Jingshi. In this short time period, they had sold 300,000 sets of Turtle Island Jade Scrolls. Everyone was shocked speechless by this enormous number. Bao Yi resumed his normal composure at this time. In this rush, there have been stores from nearby cities that have come to use to purchase the Jade Scrolls. Our Jade Scrolls have sold like crazy in this area. Bright Light City, Sea Light City, Cloud Light City, their shops are not influenced by the people from Suling City. They have bought huge numbers. We have spent great effort, all of Vermilion Bird Camp putting down their work to forge Jade Scrolls in order to fulfill their demands. In the silence, Bao Yi's voice was the only one. "However, our revenue is slowly decreasing. The little Jinji we put on our Jade Scrolls have been deconstructed and knockoffs have appeared on the market. This has greatly affected our revenue." Bao Yi was full of regret. But everyone was still immersed in the great shock of 600 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi. No one spoke. 600 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi. Zui Mo felt blank. Selling Jade Scrolls was just something he did to oppose the Tian family, and just to annoy them. Getting Vermilion Bird Camp to sell Jade Scrolls was because there were no shops that were willing to sell his Jade Scrolls. He had used this group of extremely bored people as free labor. What a world this was. One could make 600 Jingshi like this? When was Jingshi so easy to make? This was a whole 600 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi. Zui Mo felt his world was upended. Yet what he had not expected was that it wasn't just this matter that upended the world for him. Zui Mo looked curiously at the completely transformed Ling fields. Beside him, the Ling plant farmers of the island were also looking around curiously. The masters Ji Wei and Sun Bao were explaining the changes in detail. These Ling fields have been completely modified to become formation Ling fields. According to the attributes of the Ling plants, we have designed new formations. Each section of Ling fields has a cloud rain formation, and the core of the formation is a piece of 4th grade water soul crystal. It can release the little art of cloud and rain to the equivalent of the 5th level. If one wants to release little art of cloud and rain to a higher level, it requires a higher grade water soul crystal. Following Master Sun Bao's finger, Zui Mo saw threads of white mist appear above the Ling field. The white mist quickly formed a ball of clouds and silver-threaded rain fell onto every corner of the Ling field. Even from far away, Zui Mo could sense the thick vitality in these raindrops. His eyes lit up. This is good. At his side, more than 20 Ling plant farmers gaped with disbelief on their faces. This was the first time they saw a formation that could cast little art of cloud and rain. Their ling plant farming skill was not high, but even they could feel the threads of rain were truly little art of cloud and rain. There were clear differences between ling plant farming water spells and normal water spells. Normal Xiuzha might be unable to detect it, but ling plant farmers definitely could. Su Bao's face held no pride. He continued to introduce, the cloud rain formation is the simplest formation, and it was the first one we solved. We then resolved the earth formation. According to the earth granary spell, that summer flower ling plant farmers frequently use, we designed a earth granary formation. At the center of the formation is a piece of 4th grade brown spotted rock. It later proved to have a great effect, and is very good at gathering earth energy. It can reach the skill of the 4th level of earth granary spell. But we do not have a lot of brown spotted rock, so Darren will need to buy a batch. Zhuomo's joy grew. Water and earth spells were the ones most often used on normal ling field. Since these two spells were solved, that meant that ling grasses and grains had the support for basic growth. Wood spells could accelerate the growth of ling grasses and grains, while gold spells was mostly used to exterminate insects and disease. Fire spells could gather the essence of the sun, and also accelerated growth. But the core spells were the water and earth spells. In other words, it was possible to plant ling grains and grasses on this section of ling field. Removing the need to cast the water and earth spells, each ling plant farmer could now take care of 500 mu of ling fields and increase 100 mu. The amount of usable ling fields on the island could be multiplied by 5. To Zhuomo, this was definitely good news. However, the surprise is that the two masters gave Zhuomo didn't end here. Master Jiwei continued. For the wood spell, we used the ling essence wood attracting spell. This spell is relatively complex, so not many ling plant farmers use it, but there is no problem if we use a formation. Also, while the ling essence wood attracting formation is complex, it does not use a lot of jingsher. As for the fire spells, it was not difficult. Darren's golden crow fire formation is appropriate, but it is too strong. We weakened it by merging it with the glimmer formation to form a new kind of formation that we have called golden crow glimmer formation. It is not as powerful, but it is gentle and much more appropriate to use on ling plants. At this moment, the cloud and rain dissipated, the mist above the ling field disappearing. Threads of golden energy came from the sky and scattered among the ling fields. In a blink, a faint layer of golden light covered the ling grains in the field, and looked very ethereal. Zhuomo and the others were stunned by the beautiful scenery, and unconsciously stopped their breathing. The two masters Jiwei and Sun Bao were unaffected by the beautiful scenery. They had seen this scene repetitively during development, and didn't even bat an eyelid, continuing. If we have to say which spell was the most difficult, it is the gold spell. Gold spell? Zhuomo reflexively asked. He quickly reacted and couldn't help but frown. Yes, of the ling plant 5 elements, gold was for killing, and it demanded the highest control of ling power and consciousness. Ling plant farmers mostly had gentle personalities and naturally had less of killing energies. This was also why the number of ling plant farmers skilled in gold spells was pitifully few. We recalled something Darren once said. Jiwei said. What did I say? Zhuomo was clueless. Darren once said ling planting gold spells are like swordshio. They are used for killing, Jiwei explained. Zhuomo recalled and nodded. I did say it. He then asked curious. And then how did you solve it? Truthfully, he was really frightened today. Sun Bao and Jiwei's designs were full of creativity and showed him a completely new path. Zhuomo was not a short-sighted person, and he was clear of the deep meaning contained in these formations. The two masters had been very clever in managing the previous 4 kinds of spells, and this made Zhuomo very curious as to how they had taken care of the difficult gold spell. We thought that since they are very similar to Swordshio, why don't we use Swordshio directly? Jiwei asked in response. Zhuomo stilled. Use Swordshio directly? Yes, use Swordshio directly. We have a lot of Swordshio and many who have comprehended sword essence. If we can use all of them, can't we solve a great part of the problem of lacking ling plant farmers? Jiwei showed excitement. Ling plant farmers can kill those pests, so why can't Swordshio? We especially asked Teacher Wei. He told us that theoretically, there is no problem, and he also demonstrated for us. Through Teacher Wei's guidance, we designed a completely new formation. Its development was delayed by the matter with the Jade Scrolls, so we just finished it recently. A completely new formation? Now even Zuo found it hard to believe. This group of people were becoming increasingly stronger, and coming up with strange and novel formations that even he could not think of. What did this have to do with formations? Master Ji Wei was extremely excited as he spoke rapidly. We call this Geet formation the insect exterminating formation. Its core is made from golden crystal sand. There only needs to be a sword xiao who comprehended sword essence inside the formation, and it can be used to kill all kinds of pests and diseases. We got some of the brothers from Vermilion Bird Camp to try. The effect is great and there are no blind spots. Zuomo's face was dazed. He was dumbstruck. Ji Wei did not notice the dazed expression on Zuomo's face. He waved his arms and said excitedly, "And this insect exterminating formation even has an added benefit. It can help the Sword Xiao brothers practice their sword essence, and allow them to control their sword essence even better." Zuo was frightened as he looked dumbly at the two masters. The two masters finally noticed the strange expression on Zuomo's face. The two exchanged a look. Master Sun Bao broke the silence opened. "Darren, is everything all right?" "All right. Very all right," Zuo unconsciously murmured. He gazed at the Ling fields in front of him, and his dazed eyes were blank. This world was upended. Chapter 462, Cave Fright. Su Ling sect. Lu Zhen's expression was serious. "Ning Yi Gu Minggong and Yuan Xian, is this information up to date?" Lu Zhen was the present sect leader of Su Ling sect. His cultivation was in the 3rd stratum Jindan, and he was deeply trusted by the elders of the sect. Under his management, Su Ling's sect had become more prosperous than before. Not up to date, but their goal is definitely these three. Supposedly, Yuan Xian has already agreed. The one who spoke was Lu Zheng's Shidi Huangjia. He looked questioningly at Lu Zhen. "Should we stop them?" Lu Zhen asked instead. "Have we determined the origins of the people from Turtle Island?" "No," Huangjia shook his head. "They are very wary. We are afraid of drawing their attention, and do not dare to question deeper. We thought about asking Shang Weiming, but there were no results. That guy's mouth is unusually tight. And they saved his life. It seems Shang Weiming is determined to help this group of people." Lu Zhen continued. "You also saw the sword xiao in the city that day. What do you think? Their cultivation is average, all Ningmai, but their killing energies are dense and should be a group of well-trained lawless brutes. Among them, the ratio of those who comprehend sword essence is very high." Huang Jie recalled. He thought of the troop of sword xiao that had flew by him, the threads of killing essence coiling around them that had caused his heart to shake. He refocused and continued. "I heard they have a cultivation class that says it guarantees comprehension of sword essence. Since they dare to give such a boast, they must have some technique that others do not know. They also have a sword xiao expert that is not weak. It is also rare that he is willing to teach and accept disciples." "Who do you favor?" Lu Zhen said with a smile. Huang Jie said after a moment. "If Tian Yongqing and them can really invite Ning Yi and the others, 7-3. Tian Yongqing 7, Turtle Island 3. When experts fight, it is not the killing of battalions, it depends on individual power. Ning Yi's personality isn't good, but his strength is hard to deal with. In our sect, other than sect leader who can fight him, the others cannot do it. Unless the top." Lu Zhen raised a hand and stopped Huang Jie from continuing. He said, "Do not worry, I have invited Huang Longzhenren to come visit for a while. With Huang Longzhenren and I, they would not dare to mess about." Huang Jie said with a smile. "I had guessed that sect leader would be prepared but didn't think you would have invited Huang Longzhenren. I also do not have any other solutions." Lu Zhen smiled, and then his expression became stern again. "The Tian family has been very lively recently. It seems that the Tianyi battalion's rise in rankings has caused their confidence to inflate. Sect leader means, wait for this matter to end. We will strike at the Tian family, so they will don't lose sight of themselves." Sect leader is right. In a dark cave, a trail of black shadows marched for the deep reaches of the cave. The one walking at the very front was Lil Black, followed by 10th grade. Lil Pagoda and Lil Fire were circling around Ague. Ague's eyes exuded faint purple light that seemed eerie. Silly Bird was last as she held her head high as she slowly walked her bird walk, unaffected by the darkness. She was as proud and at ease as always. Ague's situation was growing better by the day, her expressions gradually becoming nimble. Lil Pagoda and the others always accompanied Ague. The caves on the island were overgrown with grasses and plants, and became the playground of Ague and the others who played happily. Suddenly Lil Black that walked at the very front stopped, its two antennae furiously waving. The battle maniac 10th grade was like a cat that had smelt fish, his little face instantly showing excitement. Holding the little black sword, he flew into the darkness. Many flames erupted on Lil Fire's body, the bright fire chasing away the darkness and revealed the Lil Gang. The Lil ones were around Ague as the purple energy in her eyes wavered. 10th grade's body suddenly flashed and disappeared. Clink! A spark suddenly shot out of the air, and the sharp sound of collision came into the Lil one's ears. The flames on Lil Fire's body wavered, and it timidly leaned towards Ague. Lil Fire's little feet grabbed onto Ague's leg, and it climbed up into Ague's head to hide inside her hair. Lil Pagoda was daring and unafraid, moving closer in curiosity. Silly Bird had an idle expression. Clink, clink, clink. Sparks lit up the air, and the sharp sounds beat down on the airs. Using the light of the fire, the Lil ones finally saw clearly. So this was a group of black insects. These black insects were about the same size as 10th grade, their bodies shaped like shuttles, and they were extremely fast. Their shells were extremely hard, and created sparks when colliding with the black sword in 10th grade's hand, but were not damaged. Having found an opponent, 10th grade quickly descended into excitement. His stern face was murderous. 10th grade with his black clothing and black sword was like a black bolt of lightning. In a turn he had sealed off the advance of these little black insects. Chirp chirp. Sounds of the insects sounded. Clink clink clink. The sparks from the battle made it seem like a crescent barrier of fire had formed. The killing energy on 10th grade's face grew. He felt the pressure was increasing. The number of little black insects was increasing. Silly Bird showed a wary expression. It detected danger. Pia pia pia. The sparks were bright in the darkness. The Lil ones quickly changed expressions. The spark barrier was slowly being pushed towards them. 10th grade's figure moved quicker and quicker. His little face was vicious, but the insects were increasing in number, and he could not stop their advance. Lil Pagoda did not dare to just look on from the side. It released a 5-colored light that swept towards the insects. The insects that were swept by Lil Pagoda's 5-colored light suddenly froze. 10th grade, who felt even more frustrated due to being pressured, suddenly exploded, and the sword presence grew. The barrier of sparks suddenly expanded outwards. Yet what no one had expected was that the spark barrier that just expanded seemed to have encountered an invisible hand that suddenly pushed it back. Insects, even more insects. In the depths of the cave, insects furiously came out like the tide. The purple light in Ague's eyes rose. Her right hand waved and a wave of insects that were attacking seemed to encounter a fatal attack, falling down silently. When they landed, their bodies were motionless. They were dead. Ague's attack caused the tide of insects to stall. Opportunity. The Lil ones had followed Swordsmanship for a long time, and their skills at fleeing were even better. Without needing to communicate, their figures retreated in unison. They were so in sync it was as though they were tied together by the same rope. The insect tide that had paused momentarily lost all restraint and furiously leapt at the Lil ones. The chirping was endless and caused pain in the eardrums. The Lil ones were in sync. Frightened, they ran with all their power. Silly Bird did not have any of the composure of an expert now as she furiously waved her wings and occasionally sneaked a look back, actions which did not affect her speed at all. The insect wave was following tightly on their behinds. Just as they were going to catch up, the Lil ones suddenly sensed everything lit up. They were out of the cave. What caused their eyes to widen was that the insects all stopped when they got to the cave entrance. In a flash, the shadow of the cave entrance was crowded with insects. These insects packed together in layer and on top of each other. It was frightening to see. Using the sunlight, they finally saw the true appearance of these insects. These insects were not black, but a brown color, their bodies flat and shuttle-shaped. There was a pair of thin gossamer wings on their backs. It may have been because they lived in the dark, that they had extremely tiny eyes that were almost invisible. What was most shocking was their mouth that was filled with sharp fang that caused coldness in those who saw it. The little ones were frightened. They quickly found that these insects did not come out of the cave no matter what. Then they rested their hearts. The mischievous Lil Pagoda saw the insects were not willing to come out of the cave, and its fear disappeared. It floated to a place only 3 zhang from the mouth of the cave, and twisted its 5-layered waist at the insects in the cave, making all kinds of funny faces. The insects at the cave shifted and furiously climbed towards the cave mouth. But no matter how they climbed, they would not come out of the cave. Seeing Lil Pagoda was fine, Lil Fire and Lil Black also came out to taunt the insects before contentedly leaving. 10th grade looked back at the cave entrance crawling with insects before leaving. His always stern face suddenly had a dark smile, full of murderousness. No problem. We will transport a batch of brown spotted rock and water soul crystal as soon as possible. Because you require a large number, it will probably be around 10 days. The shopkeeper of Cloud Pavilion said warmly to Bao Yi. The shopkeepers from the previous incident had been punished or fired by Liao Chi-chong. This shopkeeper had been moved over from another store. He was very clear on how he had become the storekeeper of Su Ling City Cloud Pavilion, and the young master had ranked Mr. Zhua as 3rd on the list of people to pay special attention to. Even though this person was not Mr. Zhua himself, he was still cautious. While the King of Hell was easy to see, the little ghosts were difficult to spot, so he did not dare to slight him. Other than using the fastest possible speed to get the merchandise, he had also given the best discount. Bowie showed a satisfied expression. He knew the market and understood that the delivery speed and prices of the other provided were very satisfactory. Thanks, shopkeeper. Bowie raised his folded hands in thanks. Darren placed great importance on this batch of brown spotted rock and water soul crystal, telling him to order them as fast as possible. Having completed what Darren had given him to do, a rock landed in Bao Yi's heart. Before leaving Cloud Pavilion, Bao Yi cast a disguise over his face. He quickly walked into another shop. After the businesses in Su Ling City teamed up against Turtle Island, Bao Yi's business had entered a stagnant state. He would even have trouble buying things. Other than Cloud Pavilion that continued to work with them, the other shops did not sell them anything, much less buy. Bao Yi quickly thought of a solution and used disguise arts. No one would suspect him if he did not use his true appearance as he went shops to make purchases. Many Xiozha were not willing to use their true appearances, and there were many that used disguise arts. Just like normal, he paid attention to the price of all the merchandise, and the discussion in the corner quickly entered his ears. This time, Turtle Island cannot escape. Bao Yi's heart shook and his ears instantly rose up. Chapter 463. What strange thing is this? In front of Zuomo, there was a black gold paper about 3 CUN that was covered in cryptic golden seal scripts, each the size of tadpoles. On the top of the black gold paper was a little figure about 1 chi tall. It was the black gold seal soldier. Zuomo's consciousness was like an oil slick that tightly covered onto this piece of paper. He didn't even dare to blink his eyes. A short while later, his forehead was covered in a fine layer of sweat. A minuscule line of fire followed his finger and flew onto the seal paper, tracing among the scripts of the paper seal. Zuomo was trying to repair the black gold seal soldier. Zuomo drooled thinking about the black gold seal soldier that seemed unable to die. However, his strike seemed to have damaged the black gold seal soldier. He was now trying out methods to fix the seal soldier. Fortunately, he had managed to find the detailed method and instructions to make the black gold seal soldier in a jade scroll he took from Gu Xiangtian's body. Zuomo had found the solution after trying a few times. Possessing the Great Day Bandit Flame, Zuomo innately had an advantage in forging. Gu Xiangtian was very skilled in making paper seals, but he was not a rich person. This could be seen from the pitifully small amount of things left on his body. Zuomo had thought he could get a lot of spoils, but there were not many items. The black gold seal soldier was Gu Xiangtian's ultimate attack, and he had invested the majority of his blood and energy in it. But in Zuomo's eyes, the materials were still low quality. The information Gu Xiangtian left in the Jade Scroll also indicated this. Because he could not find several materials at the time, Gu Xiangtian could only substitute some materials with others of similar attributes. This caused the black gold seal soldier that he forged to be lacking compared to what he had originally designed, and he had felt great regret. Gu Xiangtian lacked materials, but this wasn't a problem for Zuo. He had received a batch of high-grade materials on the sealed extinction battlefield, including an astounding amount of golden crystal sand. The black gold seal soldier needed materials of this kind the most, and among the items Gu Xiangtian had regretting not being able to obtain were the materials that had intelligence. Zuo had many of those. The totem fragments were piled up like mountains at Baoyi's place. As the consciousness and Ling power moved, Zuomo's body seemed to be pulled by thin invisible threads and uncontrollably trembled violently. A clear yet strange feeling came. He had started to become familiar with the changes that merging the three powers had brought, and discovered many abilities. When he was controlling fire and forging, what he relied on the most was consciousness and Ling power. He could now increase the strength of his consciousness and Ling power through controlling the muscles in his body. Right now, Zuomo's three powers could barely be considered united. The benefits that came with this were easy to see. In terms of purity, he could not compare to Xiuzhe that only cultivated Ling power, but in terms of endurance battles, other people were lacking compared to him. The tiny Great Day-banded flame threads of fire that curved along the seal paper turned to countless little flames. They seemed to be attracted by the black gold seal soldier, slowly leaving the seal paper and entering the black gold seal soldier. The seal scripts on the body of the black gold seal soldier suddenly lit up, as though they were red hot. Zuo did not dare to relax. The golden crystal sand he had prepared beforehand was thrown at the black gold seal soldier. The black gold seal soldier was like a magnet. It absorbed all the golden crystal sand. At this moment, the fine flames wrapped the black gold seal soldier. The seal scripts that covered the black gold seal soldier gave off a blinding light. It was like a dazzling sun. Zuo's eyes stung like they were being pricked by needles, but he didn't dare to close his eyes. A totem fragment appeared on his hands. This totem fragment was about the size of his palm, and engraved with a simple and old character. Zuo did not know what this character meant. He had asked Wei and Pu Yao, they didn't know either. But this totem fragment was one of the most outstanding totem fragments he had acquired. Zuo felt that he really bled this time. He hesitated and threw the totem fragment into the ball of light. Boom. The light grew and Zuo felt as though his skin was being pierced by countless steel needles at the same time. He was extremely shocked and hurriedly closed his eyes. The ball of light changed and flickered as though something was moving inside. Zuo suddenly found that his consciousness could not enter this ball of light, and he was even more shocked. What was going on? Eyes closed, Zuo did not notice that the seal scripts on the seal paper seemed to become alive and creep over towards him. This transformation continued for 12 whole hours. Zuo did not dare to relax during this 12 hours. Thankful, this ball of light was not interested in his Ling power, so he did not need to channel Ling power into it. He released a breath at this. Ling power was always his shortcoming. Even though his three powers had merged into one and could, to a certain degree, compensate for his Ling power, but during forging, he still needed to be frugal. The light gradually dimmed, and Zuo's heart rose. But when he saw the appearance of the black gold seal soldier, he was dumbstruck. The black gold seal soldier had changed greatly, turning from being black and gold to dark gold all over. All the seal scripts on its body had been hidden away, yet what shocked Zuo was the appearance of the black gold seal soldier. It looked exactly the same as him. What was going on? How could it be the exact same as him? Strange. Just as Zuo was puzzled, this black gold seal soldier suddenly opened his eyes. Boom. Zuo felt his mind ring as though a heavy hammer had struck. A vicious and savage presence with the black gold seal soldier at the center suddenly swept out. Dizzy, Zuo heard Wei's panicked voice in his mind. Quick. Offer sacrifice. Offer sacrifice? Not having recovered from the blow, Swo was blank. Use the golden armor guards, Wei said without hesitation. Swamo's mind cleared up. Golden armor guards? However, he knew that this was not the time for questions. He hurriedly summoned the golden armor guards. When the large golden armor guards appeared in front of the black gold seal soldier, the black gold seal soldier's eyes lit up. The golden armor guards uncontrollably flew towards the black gold seal soldier, and when they flew close, they shrank dramatically. The next scene caused Swo to be dumbstruck where he stood. The black gold seal soldier suddenly opened his mouth, and those miniaturized golden armor guards flew into the mouth of the black gold seal soldier. When they had flown over to the mouth of the black gold seal soldier, they were the size of a bean. The black gold seal soldier swallowed these golden armor guards in one gulp. Having consumed the golden armor guards, the black gold seal soldier calmed down. The vicious and vast presence quickly retreated, and the figure silently floated on top of the seal paper. Its eyes closed again and slowly landed. When it landed on the black gold seal paper, it continued to descend. The black gold paper was like a large vortex and slowly absorbed the black gold seal soldier. Like this, the figure slowly sank into the black gold seal paper. The light of the black gold seal paper disappeared, and it was motionless. What was this? Swo gaped. Using just 30 pieces of 5th grade Jingshi to invite me to kill someone? So Ning Yi, is just worth 30 pieces of Jingshi. The disdain on Ning Yi's face was thick and his tone was extremely unfriendly. Ning Yi's eyes were long and narrow. He sat cross-legged, his arms resting on his knees, as he stared coldly at Boss Su. Boss Su's expression changed, and he couldn't help but regret his impulse to take on this fatal task. Ning Yi's personality was fickle and killed people like cutting grass. If the other was discontent, then his little life definitely would not be safe. Listening to Ning Yi's tone, he was clearly angry. Terror spread in Boss Su's heart. He couldn't help but tremble. Darren, have mercy, Darren, have mercy. This insignificant one was thoughtless. This insignificant one was thoughtless. At this time, a person dressed in azure robes next to Ning Yi said with a slight smile, "Brother Ning, do not argue with these people. They are just insects. Killing them will dirty Brother Ning's hands." Ning Yi's expression eased slightly as he said, "Brotherly, sorry for you to have seen this." This young person that Ning Yi called brotherly waved his hand at Boss Su and said gently, "Leave." Boss Su seemed to have been pardoned, crawling and stumbling as he exited the room. "Does brotherly have something to say?" Ning Yi asked curiously. He smelt something unusual in the other's actions just now. This little brother has something to request of Brother Ning. The youth with the surname Li had an open expression. Ning Yi naturally was not a stupid person to be able to behave recklessly. He instantly reacted and said in shock, "These people were able to get brotherly to speak for them?" The Li surname youth smiled slightly, and did not explain. He said in a warm voice, "I will not hide it. This little brother noticed the Turtle Island people long ago. This group's origins are extremely mysterious and have not revealed anything up until now. However, this group of Sword Shio is extraordinary in power. Even the famed battalions of this Jia may not win against them, much less normal battalions. Yet no matter how I've investigated, there is nothing to find. Since there is a possibility of a conflict, I will trouble Brother Ning to go meet them." Oh, what virtues and abilities does this Turtle Island have that they have entered Brother Li's eyes? Ning Yi only smiled faintly without any viciousness on his face. The youth surnamed Li smiled and took out a Bagua mirror. This Bagua energy mirror is not a very good talisman, but has a wondrous attribute. It can calm the heart and focus the mind, resolving bloodthirst. If Brother Ning helps, this Bagua energy mirror is Brother Ning's. Ning Yi's expression changed slightly. The talisman that he had become famous for was a blood-fiendish Azura umbrella. This talisman was powerful, but the blood-fiendish energy was extremely strong. Over time, his mind would be affected by using it. If he had this Bagua energy mirror, it would counteract these effects and be extremely beneficial for his cultivation. He was slightly suspicious. Why did the other place such importance on Turtle Island? Was there something else in here? This Bagua energy mirror was good, but if he involved himself in great trouble due to this, then it was not worth it. Almost as though he detected Ning Yi's doubt, The youth with surname Li said with a smile. Brother Ning, do not think too much. That group of sword Xiao is pretty strong, but they are definitely not from Kunlun. This little brother just wants to see how they are. There are no other intentions. Having the other expose his thoughts, Ningyi was not angry. As long as it was not Kunlun, he did not fear them. He chuckled. It is Ningyi's honor to help Brother Li. If that is the case, then we can finalize the deal. Brother Ning is virtuous. The youth with surname Li said respectfully and perceptively gave the Bagua energy mirror. Ningyi caressed the Bagua energy mirror, feeling his mind was unspeakably calm and clear. The joy on his face increased. Chapter 464. Attack first. What is this? Zhuo asked Wei as he stared at the black gold seal soldier. Looking at the face that was the exact same as his, he felt unspeakably uncomfortable. Wei said in a deep voice, "This seems a bit like a totem puppet." Totem puppet? Zhuo was slightly shocked. He moved to look at Wei. What is that? What is its purpose? The totem of each tribe is the symbol of each tribe. They are extremely powerful, but many totems did not like to personally attend to each tribal matter. They would bestow puppets to each tribe that contained some of their power. In the ancient era, totem puppets were numerous. They would be bestowed a power of the totems, but these powers were not as great as the totems themselves. Some totem puppets could function as seeds that the totems left behind for themselves. If the totem is destroyed, these totem puppets can use certain secret methods to reawaken the memories of the totem and become the new totem. Pu Yao listened carefully. Even he was not clear about these ancient matters. Zhuomo's mind shifted. Seal soldiers were a method that united seals and puppets. Totem puppets made him think about the totem fragment he had used. What is offering sacrifice? Zhuo asked immediately. Offering the sacrifice is the most important step of the sacrificial ceremony. It usually is the signal that the ceremony has started. Wei explained. When your black gold seal soldier opened its eyes, it made me recall those sacrificial ceremonies. The sacrificial ceremonies of the ancient era usually require offerings. The totem puppets are like wild beasts and are extremely hungry. You did this by accident. As to what your black gold seal soldier can do, you need to explore it yourself. Things related to the totem is too distant even to us. The three were silent. He was right. The ancient era was way too archaic to them. Totem puppet. He always managed to come up with weird stuff. Zhuo couldn't help but grimace. He clearly had forged according to Gu Xiangtian's jade scroll. So why did the black gold seal soldier he made turn out completely different than in the instructions? Whatever, he'll know after trying it out. Zhuo held the paper seal and channeled the spell according to the method recorded in the jade scroll. There was no response. Zhuo paused. How could there be no response? He hurriedly took out the jade scroll and closely read it over. It was correct. Zhuo suddenly had a bad feeling. Could it be? He forced himself to calm and cast the spell again. Still no response. The corner of Zhuo's eyes jerked. The bad feeling grew and he tried again. Still no response. Why wasn't there a response? Had he ruined it? Zhuo looked at the paper seal in his hand with an ugly expression. Used so much effort, spent so many good materials, and even caused such a frightening offering of sacrifice. It all made Ji feel anticipation, but it is really a failure? Stupid thing. Zhuo was angry due to his embarrassment. Without another word, he whipped the paper seal at the table. Born to battle. A lazy voice that seemed to have just woken up suddenly popped out. The masculine and intimidating words were soft and without any strength. Behind this phrase was a long yawn. Zhuo's face was black as the bottom of a pot, his eyes staring viciously at the black gold seal soldier. The dark black gold seal soldier gave a yawn, drool coming out of the corner of his mouth, as he looked with sleepy eyes at Zhuo. Big bro, what you want? Zhuo was frozen where he stood. Pu Yao and Wei were also dumbstruck. Other than being completely dark gold, this guy's wretched appearance was just the same as Zhuo. Seeing no one reply, the black gold seal soldier gave another long yawn. Nothing? If there's nothing, I'm going to sleep. So sleepy. Finishing, he waved a hand at Zhuemo and disappeared with a pop. Unfreezing, Zhuemo felt the impulse to sob and cry. Was this still a seal soldier? That fierce seal soldier that was not afraid of death. Where did it go? Wasting so much energy and materials, yet he only got this lazy guy. Zhuemo felt he was so stupid he could go hit his head against a wall. The more he thought, the more Zhuemo missed the black gold seal soldier that was stoic, silent, and ignorant of pain or exhaustion. Such a good black gold seal soldier. His luck was terrible. Among Pu Yao and Wei's sympathetic eyes, Zhuemo wanted to cry, so regretful his intestines were green. Zhongru chanted in a low voice as he gently swung the prayer wheel in his hands. The sutra characters on the prayer wheel up and swirled. Threads of wish power were like a great gray poison that permeated the cross prayer wheel. His cross prayer will use the 9-turn sky-earth disc as the body, the Vajragata as the spokes as it was inscribed by the attainment golden body, scripture that Zhongru recited every day. The talisman was purified by wish power, so the two talismans showed signs of merging together. Even though it was just a preliminary shape, it already had wonderful powers. What he needed right now was time to continue to merging it, so this cross prayer wheel could truly be created. But the present cross prayer wheel was still the second best talisman in the camp. The 9-turn sky-earth disc was 6th grade, and after being processed in all kinds of dhyana methods, it became even more gentle and enigmatic. Other than teaching, Zhongru spent all his time on this cross prayer wheel. An irritated Zhuemo was found by a hurried Bao Yi. Bao Yi, expression panicked, reported the news he had found to Zhuemo. Shang Wei Ming had also hurried over changed expression when heard the name Ningyi. Zhuemo was not concerned. They only have this kind of move. In his view, this Tian family was lacking compared to Pu Yao. These kind of little techniques to Zhuemo, who had killed his way out of mountains of corpses, really could not stir his interest. A classic little scuffle. Shang Weiming saw Zhuemo was not very concerned and instantly became urgent. Darren, that Ningyi doesn't bat an eyelid when killing. No one can stop him with his cultivation. He has an extremely powerful talisman called the Blood Fiend Azura Umbrella that is extremely domineering, and the blood light it releases is hard to defend against. Many people have fallen under this umbrella. This powerful? Zhuemo stilled. Even more than the 1,000-gem illusory disc? Shang Weiming hurriedly said. How can the 1,000-gem illusory disc be compared to the Blood Fiend Azura Umbrella? The 1,000-gem illusory disc could be said to be a powerful talisman in Suling City, but it is nothing in all of Cloud Xijia. The Blood Fiend Azura Umbrella is famed in all of Cloud Xijia. Using this umbrella, Ningyi had killed more than 70 Xiuzha, even more than 10 Jindan experts. The Blood Fiend Azura Umbrella is ranked 10th on the Jia's ranking of 6th grade talismans, and is very powerful. This powerful? Zhuemo jumped in fright. Zhuemo did not have any concept of the talisman ranking, but if it was more powerful than that 1,000-gem illusory disc, then he found it worthy of attention. When he had been caught in that 1,000-gem illusory disc, it had been because he was not on guard, but Zhuemo had been astounded by the power of the talisman. The power displayed by the 1,000-gem illusory disc surpassed all talismans Zhuemo had ever seen before, and caused him to re-evaluate the value of talismans. Otherwise, he would not have been willing to spend all of his wealth to outfit everyone. But he was also clear that the talismans that could be bought on the market, and the true top talismans had an insurmountable gap. In his view, the 1,000-gem illusory disc was already a great talisman. If that Blood Fiend Azura Umbrella was even more powerful, then it was trouble. Zhuemo's first reaction was first send a group of people to kill Ningyi on the road. No matter how strong Ningyi or that Blood Fiend Azura Umbrella was, if there was enough people, he would still be killed. When this idea popped up, it uncontrollably spread in Zhuemo's mind. Sitting and waiting for others to come to the door was not Xiao Moge's style. He wanted himself to always be the first person to attack. As to whether the news that Baoyi found was true or not, he didn't even think about it. The pitiful Ningyi was still immersed in the joy of having the Bagua energy mirror, and was ignorant that a certain someone had given him the label of enemy. Quickly setting his target, Zhuemo started to think if he should fight, what advantages were there in fighting? What disadvantages were there if he did not fight? In a few moments, Mo decided to fight. Attacking first meant having the advantage. The other was in the open and they were in the shadows, and could take the initiative. If they could successfully kill Ning-yi, the other two would definitely feel fear. Also, the other would not predict that Mo would attack first. This kind of sneak attack was very sudden and Mo's most liked option. Their advantage of numbers could be used. Gang fighting was his best love. If he did not fight and waited for the others to come to his door, Mo and the others would be restrained in this Suling city. With so many benefits, why shouldn't they attack? The team selection was easy. Himself, Wei Sheng, Xieshang, and Zhongru. For Jindan against Ning-yi. No matter how powerful that blood fiend Azura umbrella was, they should have a possibility of victory. If that really didn't work, then adding Shulong, which would increase the probability of success. Mo asked in detail. As expected, Ning-yi was the most powerful of the trio. He unhesitatingly chose Ning-yi as the target. The saying was to capture the bandits, first capture the leader. 10th grade gazed at the deep cave with a grave expression. He had been forced back last time. The charging power of the insects inside was very powerful, and the number of insects far surpassed his imagination. Recalling the scene that day caused him to feel a threat of fear. It was this threat of fear that had caused him to feel shame. He was a Ling beast that wanted to become 10th grade. How can he feel fear? The vicious 10th grade felt that this had become a demon haunting him. If he could not destroy this monster, he would forever have a weakness. And Master once said that where one lost face, he had to regain it at that place. He could not swallow this. He had to take back his face. Insects, he has come back. Viciousness flashed through 10th grade's eyes as he unhesitatingly threw himself into the cave. Chapter 465 Danger. Is the information accurate? Why haven't we even seen a shadow? Xieshan muttered lowly. They were hiding in the cloud sea with formations around them. If one did not come close, they were hard to detect. What are you in a rush for? Mo glared. He also did not have much confidence. The information all relied on one person, since there was only Shang Weiming in his command who was familiar with Cloud Sea Jia. Shang Weiming had quickly located one of Ning-yi's residences. Everyone had thought for a long time. According to the Jia map, Ning-yi had to pass through this route. Shang Weiming, who had been in Baiyu City, discovered that Ning-yi was traveling to Suling City from one of Ning-yi's servants in these few days. So Mo and the others went back to waiting. They had already been laying in wait for 3 days, but still had not seen Ning-yi's shadow. Luckily, they all had high cultivations. Other than Xieshan that muttered, everyone was able to keep their composure. Zhongru would close his eyes to meditate. His samadhi skill was increasing by the day, and was as unmoving as a mountain. Wei Sheng sat with crossed legs and closed eyes, the black sword lying across his legs, his presence idle. Shulong did not come, having been assigned to stay on the island to guard it. If all the experts left, and people took over their nest, then this matter would really be unprofitable. Suddenly, a few black dots appeared on the horizon. Mo's eyes was keen and instantly saw the person at the front was Ning-yi. His mind became alert as he said in a low voice, "He's come." Wei Sheng opened his eyes, his hand on his sword hilt. Zhongru, who opened his eyes at the same time, now held the cross prayer wheel, and was slowly waving it. Xieshan snickered, the paired mirage sword in his hand. Mo carefully looked at the two people next to Ning-yi. They were dressed in servant clothing and should be Ning-yi's servants. When the procession flew close, Mo suddenly shouted, "Move!" The first to attack was Wei Sheng. His eyes lighting up, the black sword in his hand silently turned as it gently stabbed into empty space. At the same time, Zhongru and Xieshan also acted. One of Zhongru's hands led, and the characters on the cross prayer wheel on his right hand lit up one by one. The sutra characters automatically fell off the wheel. They did not dissipate in the air, but were like golden characters. These sutra characters flew towards Ning-yi. There were 7 golden characters in all, each golden character full of Dian Ling power and shrouded sounds of Buddhist chanting. Xieshan's paired mirage sword drew out lines of 7 colored light energies like the rainbow bridge after rain, beautiful and murderous. Zuomo's Great Day Mo physique was completely activated as he shot lightning fast towards Ning Yi. The killing moves that the four had prepared did not leave anything remaining once they were activated. Just as Ning Yi's head seemed to be going to leave his body, Ning Yi suddenly laughed. As expected, Minggong is the cleverest. Pia. A ball of light suddenly exploded 3 zhang in front of Ning Yi. This move is not very honest. A servant next to Ning Yi suddenly shook and revealed his true appearance. He was wearing a bright yellow Buddhist robe, holding a staff as tall as his person. The rings on his staff clinked, and waves of transparent light were released from those copper rings, and shielding the 3 people within 3 zhang. Just now, it had been him that had stopped Wei Sheng's silent blow. Haha, just little tricks. The other servant next to Ning Yi also showed his true appearance. Long hair and a wild face, dressed as a scholar with a learned presence. He threw out a ball of 5-color fog. The 5-color fog grew with the wind and over the sky. Before Zuomo and the others managed to react, they were caught in the fog. The golden characters that lost their target were also taken into the 5-color fog. Xieshan's rainbow sword energies were also swallowed by the 5-element fog. Zuomo and the others felt the surroundings change, and their expressions changed at the same time. Brother Ning, Master Yuan Xian, you can start at your leisure, do not need to hurry. This old man's 5-element fog is not specialized for killing, and can only drag out the battle. Gu Minggong smiled. His words seemed humble but were proud. The 7 golden characters that lost their target automatically came back to Zhongru and slowly spun around him. Minggong's move is powerful. Ning Yi laughed wildly. Haha. None of you will escape today. It has been so long since I've tasted blood. Now you came to my door, then none of you can escape. A blood fiend Azura umbrella suddenly appeared in his hand. The body of the umbrella seemed to be soaked in blood, and the thick tang of blood was nauseating. There was the sound of wails coming from inside the umbrella, sobbing and wailing that caused people's minds to waver and feel fear. Smelling the blood, an indiscernible thread of dislike flashed through Yuan Xian's eyes. He did not speak, and only chanted lowly. The wild laugh of Ning Yi that came from above their heads was like thunder and extremely vicious. Those that did not have enough bravery would have faltered. Zuomo's expression was grave. The other had prepared beforehand. The plan they had thought was concealed had been predicted by the other's calculations. In a blink, the initiative had switched sides, and they were in a dangerous position. Ning Yi had not attacked, but that Gu Minggong and Yuan Xian all showed great power. Yuan Xian wasn't simple, since he was to be able to easily stop eldest Shixiang's strike. The 5-colored fog in front of them was ever-changing. Zuomo could feel a great formation power flowing within the fog. This fog was strange. Zuomo had just heard Gu Minggong call this the 5-element fog shield. Was this 5-colored fog the one that belonged to the 5 elements? If it really was like that, then it really was not good. Zuomo's heart continuously sank. Those that used fog to forge talismans were mostly roaming xiao, because fog was not just divided into many kinds. Each fog type had clear 5-element attributes. It was not easy to gather 5 kinds of fog of different elements, and it was even harder to forge this 5-element fog into one. The fog of different elements was clearly divided, and would not easily merge into each other. 2 fogs of different elements were not easy to merge together, and with the addition of each extra fog, the level of difficulty multiplied. The difficulty of merging fog of 5 different elements into one talisman was as hard as reaching the heavens. When Zuomo heard what the other called this talisman, he recognized the danger. He did not have the time to determine where they had slipped up. If they were the least bit careless, they would die here. Being battle experienced, Zuomo quickly judged the situation. 4 against 3, they originally had the advantage of numbers, but the existence of the 5-element fog shield completely took away their advantage of numbers. Once their advantage disappeared, then they were facing danger. In terms of talismans, they definitely could not compare to Ning Yi's group. In terms of cultivation, it was the same. Ning Yi's trio had become famous long ago, and were at least of the 2nd stratum cultivation while Ning Yi was the peak of 3rd stratum. Their side had all been separated, and what would follow would be each person's attack on them. Damn it. Zuomo's mind spun quickly and his hands were not idle. He silently made a seal, and an invisible wind rippled. It was the bone-crushing obscuring flash. Gu Minggong's sound of surprise came from above. This spell is slightly interesting. But this old man will urge you to not waste your efforts. This old man's 5-element fog shield has 5 elements cycling endlessly, and is not some illusion. Be obedient and let me capture you. This old man will let you keep your life. The flash wind spread, but the 5-element fog in the surroundings were not affected. As expected, it was not an illusion. Zuomo's expression became even uglier. But he was not demotivated. The light void wings on his back lightly shook and he suddenly charged. Yet no matter how he flew, he could not see the end of the 5-element fog. Haha! This old man has already said to not waste effort. The 5-element fog will create and subdue each other, cycling endlessly and creating its own world. Even if you have heaven-tearing moves, you cannot leave this old man's 5-element fog shield. Gu Minggong's smug laughter entered Zuomo's ears. He Minggong, why waste words on them? Ming Yi's cold voice inserted. So boring, these little insects caused the 3 of us to have to make a trip. Minggong end them. We can finish early, find a place to drink tea. Isn't that pleasurable? Master Yuan Xian said. Excellent, excellent. Gu Minggong laughed brightly. Both of you have elegant leanings. This old man will show his paltry moves. Zuomo and the others felt the space tighten around them, and the 5-element fog squeezed them from all directions. At the same time, tendrils of 5-element fog coiled around them like multicolored poisonous snakes. The light fog was like iron chains that were extremely strong, and they were unable to move a hair no matter how they struggled. Even with the great Mo physique, Zuomo's struggle was ineffective. The more he struggled, the greater the power the 5-element smoke on his body passed over. Was today the end? Tian Hungbo licked his lips, his eyes narrowed as he showed a cruel smile. He had a fire repressed in his heart at this time. The prey was in front of him, and his heart was filled with the desire to kill. Behind him were 5 Xiuzha. They either had cold or idle expressions, but without an exception, all of them had murderous presences. These 5 looked to be experienced people that spent long times on the battlefield. Only old-timers could behave so relaxed before a battle. All the Jindan battle xiu of the Tian family were here. Just these 6 Jindan battle xiu were enough to deal with a battalion. Behind the 6 were the battle xiu packed in tightly. Tianyi Battalion. It was the first battalion of the Tian family that had just returned from the battlefield. Tianyi Battalion. The Tian family really invested greatly this time. Other than the Tianyi Battalion, the other 2 elite battalions of the Tian family had also been called here. Tian Yongqing decided to use the chance to capture the Turtle Island. Tian Yongqing had not thought so much to start with, yet Gu Minggong was outstandingly clever, deducing that Zuomo and the others would attempt an ambush on Ningyi. Tian Yongqing was also a smart person. His mind spun and instantly understood. Right now, all the experts of Turtle Island had left, and the island was at its weakest, and had the least number of experts. How could they miss this 1 in 1,000 chance? Once they captured the Turtle Island with its abundant ling fields, the Tian family could instantly multiply its output and have revenue rolling in. If they took the chance of their increased reputation to recruit talents, no one could stop the rise of the Tian family. Even Su Ling's sect could not stop them. The Turtle Island in front of them was like a beautiful cut of meat that every member of the Tian family drooled after. From today, this piece of meat belonged to the Tian family. The murderousness in Tian Hungbo's eyes grew as he shouted, "Kill!" The Black Battalion was like a black cloud that pressed towards Turtle Island. Chapter 466. 5-element fog shield, such a powerful talisman. Zuomo felt the fog chains on his body tighten, his breathing became difficult, and he could hear the bone-aching creaks coming from his bones. If the great Mo physique was not so strong, this grinding pressure would have ground his flesh and blood into powder. But the twisting still caused Zuomo enormous pain. He unhesitatingly activated the flame seal armor. The fire-red flame seal armor suddenly appeared. It was like igniting oil when the great day banded flame touched the fog chains. The great day-banded flame grew and covered Swamo's body. He was like a burning ball of fire. At the same time, a vast sword essence shot out into the sky among the roiling fog. A burst of Buddhist chants could be heard. Threads of golden light streamed out of the five-colored fog that covered the sky. The warm and calm Danya essence filled the space. Xieshan was inside a seven-colored round shield. This round shield was extremely beautiful and glittered. When the five-colored fog neared, it was possible to hear the pops as the shield was being corroded. Gu Minggong's expression changed slightly. The five-element fog shield was connected to his mind, and everything that happened within it was known to him. These four people were not easy to deal with. His five-element fog chains had trapped many heroes before, yet these four had so easily broken free. He couldn't help but feel wary. Even though the fog chains were the talisman's simplest killing move, but he still felt insecure that the four did it so easily. Ningyi was also shocked, but he was not afraid. He laughed madly and said, "Haha, not bad, not bad. They have some power. My blood fiend Azura umbrella lacks powerful souls. The Azura is hard to form, and you have come knocking on the door. None of you will escape today." The blood fiend Azura umbrella in Ningyi's hands was made by collecting extremely and corrupt blood fiends. The numerous blood fiends in the umbrella were as vast as the sea. Countless innocent souls floating within it as though it was hell. If he could capture powerful souls in the umbrella, he could cultivate the soul into an Azura, and the power of the umbrella would grow exponentially. If this umbrella was forged to its limits, it could become its own world. But powerful souls were hard to find. That was until today, when Ningyi found that these four all had powerful souls that fit the requirements. That was especially true for that sword Shio with the black sword. A soul that strong was extremely rare. The stronger the souls, the more powerful the Azura that was forged. If he used this person's soul to forge the blood fiend Azura, he didn't know how strong it would be. Ningyi was overjoyed. If he knew there was such a powerful soul, he would think of ways to kill and capture it, even if he hadn't been asked to. This was a temptation he could not resist. He was really lucky today. Without another word, he leapt at Wei Sheng. Yuan Xian's eyes were lightly locked onto that bright golden light. The vast Diana essence exuded through that light caused shock in him, and also his eyes to become red. He came from a small sect, and the Skunda staff scripture was something he had accidentally stumbled on in a cave. He was endowed with great talent, and the Skunda staff scripture was like adding wings to a tiger. His cultivation increased by the day, and he gradually entered the ranks of experts. He had used great effort after becoming Jindan to gather all types of materials to forge this Skunda staff in his hand. Yet when he saw the other's pure Diana essence, he still could not stop his eyes from turning red. What the other cultivated was definitely an extremely profound Diana scripture, one even more profound than his Skunda staff scripture. He had completely studied the Skunda staff scripture, and it was unable to help him improve any longer. It could help him become Jindan, but could not help him cultivate into Yuanying. His fingers tightly gripped the Skunda staff. Because he was gripping with too much force, his fingers were white. No matter what, he had to take this Diana scripture. Only better Diana scriptures could help him become Yuanying. The Skunda staff in his hand suddenly paused, and the copper rings hummed in unison. Among the Buddhist chanting was murderous intent. A divine light was discernible on Yuan Xian's face as he strode directly at Zhongru. As the flame seal armor appeared, Zuo felt the pressure instantly decrease. The great day-banded flame was as powerful as expected, and he released a breath. But he still had no idea how to defeat this five-element fog shield. This five-element fog shield had all five elements, was full of variations, and the other's forging abilities were clearly high, so there were likely many hidden abilities that he had not anticipated. Bone-crushing obscuring flash was proven to be ineffective, which meant that the fog in front of him was not an illusion. Then what was it? Suddenly recalling the formation power he had just detected, Zuo shook. Did this five-element fog shield contain formation-like changes? The more he thought, the more likely it seemed. The five elements enhanced and subdued each other. In formation, there were countless methods that used the five elements. The fog was also intangible and could change shape as one willed. In terms of formations, it could add many variations. If that was the case, then this was really a big headache. With a slight investigation using his consciousness, Zuomo's expression instantly became even uglier. The 5 types of fog seemed to be mixed together casually, but it hid an undecipherable pattern. And the other had used a secret method that caused these 5 types of fog to remain separate at times, or to merge together in unpredictable changes. Thinking about how the Great Day Banded Flame had just burned the fog, Zuomo's eyes lit up. Maybe he could use the Great Day Banded Flame. The flame on his body burst out again. He charged towards the thickest part of the fog and heard hissing. The flame isn't bad. Pity that you are lacking. It is delusion to think you can defeat my 5-element fog shield with just this kind of move. Gu Minggong's cold voice came. He clearly was angry now. He had relaxed his guard momentarily, and his 5-element fog shield had been slightly damaged. He treasured this talisman and would feel great pain at any bit of damage. Zuomo felt the scenery change, and the 5-color fog around him became red fog. This kind of fog was red like fire and moved like sharks that smelt blood, furiously rushing at Zuomo. Before he could react, a suction force came and the Great Day Banded Flame began to leave his body. Zuomo was astounded. The red fog around the Great Day Banded Flame was so thick it was almost tangible. The attractive force had come from the red fog. Fire element fog. A formation. Zuomo suddenly reacted and took back the Great Day Banded Flame. It had just been a moment, and half of his Great Day Banded Flame was gone. The fire element fog that absorbed the Great Day Banded Flame. Zuomo was both shocked and felt pain in his heart. Such a powerful fog. Such a powerful formation. The other was so skilled it surpassed Zuomo's imagination. The other was able to set up a fire-absorbing formation with the fog. Otherwise, no matter how powerful the fire element fog was, it could not absorb so much Great Day Banded Flame in such a short amount of time. He finally tasted the power of the other. As expected of the seal Immortal. Before, Zuomo had put all his thoughts on Ning-Yi and did not pay any attention on the other 2. Now he understood that those with great fame were never insubstantial. Having rampaged in Blood Sky Metropolis Jie, Zuomo had never expected that he would be continuously set back when he entered Cloud Sea Jie. This time, he found that he was once again put in a state of life and death, and he found he actually had no solutions. Last time, when he had been caught in the 1,000-gem illusory disc, the black gold seal soldier of Guxiang Tian had been great trouble for him, and he almost died. Wait. Black gold seal soldier. A light flashed through Zuomo's eyes. But thinking about that guy's wretched and lazy appearance, he felt this idea was unreliable. But he really had no other solutions that he could think of at this time. The Great Day Mo physique was powerful and few were a match, but the opponent's moves were countered and subdued the Great Day Mo physique. Other than this, he still had a killing move, Archaic Wasteland Sacrificial Art. While this move was extremely powerful, it expended a great amount of Ling power. If it was not at death's door, he definitely did not dare to use it. Without another words, he took out the black gold seal paper and channeled Ling power. No response. Thinking about the scene last time, the corners of Zuomo's eyes jerked. Did this guy have to be hit to come out? P. He suddenly hit the paper seal on his hand. Born to battle. The lazy and drowsy voice sounded again. The black gold seal soldier appeared in front of Zuomo looking at the dark golden features that were the same as his. Even in such a dangerous situation, Zuomo felt his mind turn to a mess. Heavens! Why did he put his hopes on such an unreliable person? Alright, since called one out, then he would let them all come out. Without another word, he took out all the beast service cards in his ring, and released them one after one. Chung Shidi had given them to him but he had never used them before. Fire-tailed fox, white light butterfly, black and white fork-tailed sparrow. You have a lot of knickknacks. Gu Minggong's snort of laughter came from above his head. Just this trash and you want them to save your life? Haha. Listen to this old man, let me capture you. Do not waste your effort on ineffective struggles, and this old man will keep you alive. Gu Minggong's voice was friendly and sincere. Zuomo pretended not to hear it, and continuously let out the Ling beasts. After fighting for so long, Zuoyamo had generally gotten the scope of the situation. The other's 5-element fog shield was powerful, but only in the area of formation variations. There was no problem in trapping him, but it would not be so simple if the other wanted to kill him. Understanding the situation, he calmed down. It was pity. If Lil Pagoda was here, that would be good. These 5-element fog would be great nutrients for it. He could only think of other ways now. He hoped that these Ling beasts would be enough to have an effect. At least they had numbers. A Ling beast army, this idea was pretty good. Zuoyamo was slightly proud. His surroundings quickly filled with all kinds of Ling beasts that numbered more than 200. He had used all the beast service cards that Chun Yucheng had given him regardless of the grade. No one would be like him and release so many Ling beasts in one go. The more Ling beasts one released, the harder they were to control. Even a beast breeder like Chun Yucheng could not control several hundred Ling beasts in one go. But Zuoyamo did not care that much right now. It was possible to see what a level he had been pressured into. What Zuoyamo did not detect was a gleaming pair of eyes not far from him that was staring at the Ling beast army. He put such high hopes on. And there was the sound of gurgling as this one swallowed. Chapter 467. Strong offense. The sky was a fiery red as though storm of spells raining down had lit the air on fire. Tian Hengbo's expression was comparably ugly to the burning sky. Up until now, they hadn't broken through the island's protective formation. Thunder roiled within the Inyang Thunder Cloud formation. Lightning occasionally flashed and the silver snakes curved with a frightening presence. But what caused people to feel hopeless was the azure energy that would occasionally appear. They didn't know what those azure energies were, but any spell that encountered the azure energy, no matter how powerful, would disappear. The Tian family started out as Ling plant farmers, but they had recruited a seal Xiao that was skilled in formations. But that seal Xiao's head was covered in sweat, and his expression was distraught at this time. How much longer? Tian Hengbo felt impatient, and his voice was murderous. He had never thought that Turtle Island was really a turtle, one that had retreated into its shell. A shell so hard it could break off people's teeth. They had been stopped right outside the formation. If they could not break through the defense of the formation, it would be a serious blow to their present high morale. What caused him even more fury was that Tian Yi had sent a message from the rear with the undisguised disdain. Tian Yi's personality was eccentric, and had terrible relations with Tian Hengbo. Tian Hengbo found it hard to tolerate being laughed at by Tian Yi. I don't know. This female Xiao knew Tian Hengbo's fiery temper. She swallowed hard and tried to explain. This island has an expert in formations. The Inyang Thunder formation has been strengthened, and a lightning wood element has been added. There is also a very strange formation on the island that this subordinate has never seen before. This formation. In other words, there's no solution. Tian Hengbo stared at the seal Xiao with a dark face. The heart of the seal Xiao tightened. He stammered out, This subordinate needs 2 hours, no 4 hours. Whoosh! A energy flashed through the head of the seal Xiao and blood streamed out. What is the use in keeping you? Tian Hengbo's voice was cold. He did not look at the corpse on the ground, turning and ordering, All of you, launch an all-out assault. Anyone that retreats will be killed without question. The people around him shook inside and responded in the affirmative. Battle Xiao flooded in behind them and encircled Turtle Island, preparing their spells together. Only one troop was stood out, staying motionless. That was Tian Yi Battalion. Tian Hengbo felt great hatred towards them, but did not show it on his face. He ordered the other 2 elite battalions to attack at the same time. He resolved that he would take down Turtle Island no matter what. Otherwise, he would not be able to raise his head in front of Tian Yi in the future. To break a formation, other than deconstructing it, there was another method, a strong attack. In theory, when the attack was strong enough, any formation can be defeated. In a flash, numerous spells fell down. Jiwei looked at the burning sky and praised. This meridional azure ether formation is truly strong. Darren is uncanny in ability to be able to comprehend such a formation. It is a sect-protecting formation. With this formation, Darren is able to create his own sect. Sun Bao said simply. He's a sect unto himself now. Jiwei thought. That was true, there wasn't any difference between Darren and a sect right now. Zhuo did not conceal the meridional azure ether formation, and everyone in Golden Crow Camp learned it, and understood its wonders. But the more they understood, the more they felt how immeasurable Darren was. Because it was not easy for Zhuo to explain the origins of the Jade Scroll. He told them that he had comprehended it himself. Zhuo had just wanted to find an excuse, and hadn't expected to cause everyone's admiration. They did not know that the meridional azure ether formation had great origins. A formation that Puyao had held on to until now. Could it be average? The spells rained down outside, but the sky was clear and calm on the island. The formation that was already powerful grew and stronger under Lil Pagoda's control. Regardless of the bombardment, it was like the rock in the middle of the sea that remained unmovable. The two of them were not nervous at all. It wasn't just these two. All the Xiozha of Golden Crow Camp had come to watch the spectacle, and did not show any fear. Because near them, the Sword Xiao of Vermilion Bird Camp were waiting to attack. In the dark and cold mountain cave, Xu Long and the others stood around a black pond. Should we go out and help? Owen couldn't help asking. No need, they can deal with it. Xu Long's stern gaze was locked on the MO weapons floating in the pond. Beside him, everyone was anxious, afraid to breathe too harshly. After a while, the black pond started to bubble as though it was going to boil. Xu Long's expression became even more grave as he said in a deep voice, "Do you remember the method I just taught you?" Everyone nodded in unison. The MO weapons recognizes their owners, and all have their own good fortune. It is alright if you do not get one this time, but no one shall feel hate or envy. Xu Long's gaze swept across everyone. Ha, Brother Long is becoming more of a nag. What's there to hate? We're all brothers. The brothers that obtain MO weapons, you should go out and have a good run. Don't let Vermilion Bird Camp take the attention. That's right. I've been wanting that group of bird people to know the might of US Guard Camp. The competitive relationship between the two camps could be seen from the appellations. The Xiozha of Guard Camp called Vermilion Bird Camp the Birdie Camp, and Vermilion Bird Camp Xiozha referred to the Guard Camp as Manual Labor Camp. Once the words came out, they caused a chorus of agreement and excitement. They were always discontent that Vermilion Bird Camp frequently ranked first. Xu Long had an imperceptible smile on the corner of his mouth. He usually used this competitive relationship to motivate everyone to cultivate. It seems that the effects were good. The black pond suddenly quieted. All noise disappeared, and everyone looked at the black pond. The quieted black pond was like a glossy and smooth mirror without any ripples. At this time, a MO weapon silently floated onto the surface. A faint but intimidating and pure fiendish energy engulfed the cave without any warning. Every camp guard unconsciously stopped breathing. Their eyes pulled towards the MO weapon. This was a curved blade. The completely black blade did not have the least bit of sheen. It had an abnormal curvature, and seemed to have an unusual power that captivated and held people's gazes. MO weapons continuously floated onto the surface. The vicious fiendish energy in the cave increased in strength until it was almost tangible. Xu Long and the others felt this was unspeakably pleasurable. For Xiozha, this was undoubtedly pure toxic poison, but for them this vicious fiendish energy was like being immersed in a hot spring and extremely comfortable. No one moved even though their faces were full of excitement. They were waiting for Xu Long's command. Xu Long shouted, "Start." They then eagerly channeled the hardship guard. Killing essence filled the cave. Everyone had serious expressions, releasing as much killing essence as they could, and were shrouded in tangible killing essence. The black mist of killing essence seemed to give off an inviting scent. The MO weapons that were inside the black pool were attracted and started to shake. The peaceful black pool was instantly disrupted. MO weapons chose their masters. For all the hardship guards including Xu Long, this was a very novel matter. They didn't even have a general concept of MO weapons, but they knew this could make them strong, make them more powerful. That was enough. For these hardship guards that were once slave Xiao, following Darren was their own goal in life. Yet they found their combat capabilities was inferior to Vermilion Bird Camp, and the effect they could cause with their strength was limited. For this group of people that lived to follow Swordsmanship, being unable to show their usefulness was even more depressing and uncomfortable than death. Each of them channeled their emo skill to the max. Their eyes held determination that had gone through hardship. Ningyi looked greedily at Wei Sheng. Such an extreme soul. He could smell the purity of this soul. It was so intoxicating. A masterpiece of heaven. Ningyi licked his lips, his long and narrow eyes showing undisguised excitement. Wei Sheng did not speak. He could feel the other's great power, the terrifying presence and especially the vicious energy coming from the bloody umbrella in the other's hand that made him feel as though he was in hell. But he did not waver. He never felt fear because of the strength of an enemy. Not in the past, not now, and would not in the future. He was Wei Sheng, the one that always went forward. Wei Sheng. He looked without fear at the other. Battle intent in his eyes was like sword essence exploding. Only people that were familiar with him would notice a change. He had entered a battle state. The black sword in his hand raised and pointed straight at the other. Why do you uselessly struggle? Ningyi shook his head and smiled slightly as though he was watching a pet play around. Boom. Vast sword essence was like the volcano breaking through the last layer of restraints, exploding into the sky. The space threejang around Wei Sheng seemed to collapse inwards and showed unnatural curvature. The more Ningyi watched, the more he liked it. Not bad, not bad. A very good seed, good seed. So young and having cultivated sword essence to such a level. You did not waste your soul. An Azura wielding the sword, I like this one. Suddenly Ningyi laughed. Why should I waste so many words on you? The mirth at the corner of his lips rose, and his gaze suddenly became vicious. Die. Before the sound landed, the blood fiend Azura umbrella in his hand suddenly snapped open and floated over Ningyi's head. The blood fiend Azura umbrella slowly spun, releasing a red light and shielding Ningyi in the middle. A beam of bloody red light that carried a nauseating tang of blood shot at Wei Sheng. Wei Sheng felt a feeling of extreme danger. Without hesitating, the black sword in his hand struck forth. The space in front of Wei Sheng was torn apart by this strike. There was a black void inside that was unknown. The blood light was stopped by this strike. Not bad. Ningyi snorted coldly. But this is not enough. The blood fiend Azura umbrella spun faster. The bloody light increasing in strength and the nauseating tang of iron growing. What was even more terrifying was that tear in the space was being slowly pressed closed by the bloody light. Chapter 468. Damn it, 200 Ling beasts crouched around Zuemo. They were extremely quiet, and did not make any sounds. The sound of the black gold seal soldier swallowing was clear to hear. Zuemo's temples throbbed as he turned around with an unfriendly expression. He saw the black gold seal soldier look yearningly at the Ling beast with a desirous and greedy gaze. He did not notice that Zuemo was staring at him, his dark gold Adam's apple bobbing. He was clearly swallowing rapidly. Seeing its wretched state, Zuemo felt a burning anger. You wasted so many of GE's good materials. Wasted so much of GE's emotions. Wasted so much of GE's time. Made GE be happy for nothing. You. Terrible history. Innumerable crimes. Just as Zuemo's anger was about to erupt, the black gold seal soldier suddenly turned his face around, pointing at the Ling beasts and asking weakly, "They look so delicious, can I eat one?" Eat. Zuemo's expression instantly darkened. The corners of his eyes continuously jerked, and it was like pouring oil onto the hot anger in his chest. But he suppressed the anger and gritted out. If you can defeat this 5-element fog shield, you can eat all of them. If you can't. Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by the cheer of the black gold seal soldier. Really? The black gold seal soldier's eyes lit up and the gulping sounds increased in volume. He completely disregarded Zuemo's furious gaze, turning his face and suddenly opening his mouth to face the 5-colored fog. He suddenly sucked in. Hiss. A shocking scene occurred. The 5-element fog that covered the sky flew straight at the black gold seal soldier's mouth. His mouth was like a bottomless hole. The 5-colored fog flooded in furiously like a whale sucking in water. You dare. Petrified from shock, Zuemo heard the shocked and furious shout of Gu Minggong come from above his head. The fog twisted violently, but no matter how it changed, It seemed to be caught tightly by a powerful and invisible hand, unable to escape. Gu Minggong's expression changed greatly. He found that no matter how he channeled the five-element fog shield, he was unable to escape from this strong suction. In a blink, he actually felt that he was losing control of the five-element fog shield. This was not possible. Gu Minggong's face was ashen, and he felt ice-cold. His eyes were full of terror and disbelief. He had spent great effort on forging his five-element fog shield, and used a whole decade to forge this talisman. From the day it was forged, it was connected to his mind and was almost a part of his body. There never had been a situation where he could not control it. When his connection with the five-element fog shield started to disappear, he was unable to suppress the terror and hopelessness. Blood climbed into his eyes. He furiously channeled Ling power to drag back the five-element fog shield. Yet everything was futile. No matter how he channeled Ling power, no matter what spells he released, the five-element fog shield was still being sucked at a speed that made him hopeless into the mouth of that ghastly thing. What was that thing? He looked with bloodshot eyes at the dark golden-black gold seal soldier like a gambler that had just lost everything. Swordsmanship was dumbstruck as he looked at the space around him that was emptied as though he was dreaming. The last thread of five-element fog was sucked into the mouth of the black gold seal soldier. His face was twisted as though he had eaten citrus peel. But when he turned around and looked at the Ling beasts, he instantly turned into smiles. Without a second word, he opened his mouth and sucked again. Like dumplings going into the pot, the Ling beasts flew one after the last into his mouth. In a blink, the 200 Ling beasts were cleared out. The black gold seal soldier showed a contented expression, gave a burp and then a yawn. With drowsy eyes he waved at Swordsmanship. Big bro, I'm so drowsy, going to sleep. He disappeared with a snap right after. Swordsmanship had not recovered from his shock. Everything that just happened gave him a great blow to his confidence. The five-element fog shield was the most powerful talisman he had ever seen, and was even more powerful than the 9-turn Sky-Earth disc. Adding on that, Gu Minggong was also very powerful. It was an extremely strong trap, and was not something that the present Swordsmanship could face. He had realized this before. The five-element fog shield contained all five elements, and was full of transformations. Gu Minggong was also skilled in formations, and had added many formation transformations, so it was even more wondrous. Swordsmanship was certain that Gu Minggong still had many killing moves he had not used yet. How could the five-element fog shield only have just these few changes? But the shock that the black gold seal soldier gave Swordsmanship had not faded. Thinking about the wretched black gold seal soldier, Swordsmanship felt as though he had seen a ghost. The five-element fog shield was a top 6th grade talismans. It had been defeated by this guy in an instant. Was this a joke? The entire situation reversed so abruptly it was hard to accept. In Swordsmanship's sea of consciousness, Pu Yao and Wei were also greatly shocked by the black gold seal soldier, and were robbed of speech momentarily. Give me my five-element fog shield. Swordsmanship shook at Gu Minggong, but he instantly reacted and looked maliciously at Gu Minggong. That heart-wrenching cry of fury only drew attention to Gu Minggong. Without the five-element fog shield, Gu Minggong in Swordsmanship's eyes was a chicken plucked of all feathers. He also felt a similar feeling that the black gold seal soldier had felt when looking at the Ling beasts. Beautifully fat. Clang! The Skunda staff in Yuan Xian's hand accurately struck a golden character. The golden character instantly turned to dots of golden light. But there was no satisfaction on Yuan Xian's face, only wariness. He had originally assumed that since the other was so young, even with a profound dhyana scripture, the other would not be a match for him. But in these rounds of fighting, the other was not at a disadvantage in the least. Yuan Xian's eyes stared at the crossed prayer wheel in Zhongru's hands, and his pupils couldn't help but contract. His heart was instantly taken over by jealousy. The Skunda staff in his hand was not ordinary, but was lacking compared to the other's prayer wheel. A profound dhyana scripture, a powerful talisman, they are all mine. With a large shout, Yuan Xian's Skunda staff suddenly exploded with light. The copper rings chimed rapidly. Circles of golden light flew at Zhongru. Zhongru did not dare to underestimate them. This Diana Xiao had deeper cultivation than him, and should be Jindan third stratum. His cultivation was so deep it surpassed Zhongru's imagination. The cross prayer will shook slightly, sutra characters lighting up, falling and flying towards the golden circles of light. Pop pop pop. When they neared the golden circles of light, the sutra characters could not tolerate the enormous pressure and exploded into light. The terrifying pressure flooded towards Zhongru. The other had caught on to his shortcomings, his cultivation, and had decided to use the difference in cultivation to beat him down. Zhongru's expression was serious. If the other used this almost savage and primitive method, he did not have many good solutions. When the difference in power reached a certain degree, the advantages in other areas could not provide much help. Zhongru's days as a Jindan were short, and he had not even touched the peak of first stratum. Compared to the other's peak of third stratum cultivation, his was greatly lacking. The two were only 2 stratums apart, but the cultivation difference between the two was more than 10 times. It was one on the earth, and one in heaven. So when Yuan Xian decided to use Ling power to defeat him, Zhongru instantly sank into a dangerous situation. Even though he had a 6th grade talisman like the cross prayer wheel, he could not stop Yuan Xian's attack. It was a pity. If he had forged the cross prayer wheel more to his wishes, he might have been able to stop these rings of light. Zhongru sighed inside, put away the cross prayer wheel, and put his palms together. Boom. A shadow about 3 zhang appeared behind him with 3 heads and 6 arms. It was the attainment golden body. The attainment Buddha opened one palm and grabbed one of the rings of light. Pia. The ring of light was crushed and the hand of the attainment Buddha was also turned to powder. Yuan Xian's eyes instantly became heated. He looked greedily at the enormous shadow that almost covered Zhongru. He felt enormous power from this shadow. If he could also cultivate this dhyana scripture. Unhesitatingly, he poured the Ling power in his body into the Skanda staff. Wei Xing was very disheveled. It had been a long time since he was pushed so far. After becoming Jindan, his sword essence increased greatly by the day as though every barrier was fragile in front of him. It was today when he encountered Ning Yi that he felt the difference between him and truly powerful experts. Compared to the 3 Ren family elders, Ning Yi was a Xiuzha of a different level. In cultivation, Ning Yi's peak of 3rd stratum cultivation was 9 times that of Wei Sheng. It was only this small because Wei Sheng's progress was far beyond normal people, and he had reached the peak of 1st stratum in this short period. In terms of talismans, the bloodlight that Ning Yi's blood fiend Azura umbrella produced was enough to push Wei Sheng back continuously. Even in terms of battle experience, Ning Yi was far beyond Wei Sheng. From the beginning, Wei Sheng was suppressed on all fields. The sword essence that he was always proud of was completely suppressed by the bloodlight released by the blood fiend Azura umbrella. He didn't know what the blood fiend Azura umbrella was made out of. It was even able to corrode the void. Wei Sheng had not had the advantage once. He didn't even have the chance to attack back. He knew that the other did not use all his might. Otherwise he would have died already. Was this a game of cat and mouse? He didn't know. He only had one though in his mind: sword strike. Sword strike. Sword strike. Every one of his sword energies was a line of defense. Even though it could only stop the bloodlight for a minuscule amount of time, but he could only continuously release sword essence. One sword after the next to snatch a bit of time for himself. The nauseating tang of blood burrowed into his nose as though it was constantly reminding him death was so close. His Ling power was being consumed at shocking speed. Wei Xing quickly felt the burden. Ning Yi's eyes floated with insuppressible excitement. The conditions were about right. Ning Yi did not want to leave any flaw on such a perfect soul. He purposefully held his power back in order to press Wei Sheng to his limits. A soul at its limits would become more powerful, and the Azura forged would be stronger. The time he had dreamt about appeared. Even a vicious person like Ning Yi couldn't help but feel excited. The blood fiend Azura umbrella suddenly brightened with its bloody light. Already at the end of his strength, the last bit of sword essence in front of Wei Sheng collapsed like fragile glass. The bloodlight broke through the last line of defense and struck the black sword in Wei Sheng's hand. At this time, a change suddenly occurred. This black sword that came with Wei Sheng from the sealed extinction battlefield seemed to be awoken from its deep slumber. Chapter 469. Abrupt turnaround. The bloody light released by the Blood Fiend Azura umbrella was pulled by the black sword. In an instant, the black sword, which looked like a horse-chopping saber, had turned completely red as though it was fresh from the forge. Countless fine sword essences simultaneously exploded from the hilt of the sword. Unprepared for the change, Wei Sheng's hands were cut up by the large numbers of sword essences. The numerous small wounds had turned his hands into a mess of blood and flesh. Wei Sheng made a muffled grunt. He knew that he definitely could not let go of the sword hilt right now. He didn't let go, and gathered his remaining power to tightly grip the sword hilt. Large amounts of blood flowed from Wei Sheng's cut-up palms. The entire sword hilt was quickly seeped in blood. The scene that followed looked extremely eerie. The sword hilt covered in fresh blood suddenly soaked up the blood like a sponge. Pangs of heart-boring pain burrowed starting at his hands into Wei Sheng's body. Wei Sheng felt his mind go blank. With Ning Yi's battle experience, he detected something was wrong the moment the black sword changed colors. However, he was only shocked for a moment before recovering his calm. Who didn't have one or two life-saving moves? The difference in power between the Wei Sheng and himself was so great that one or two ultimate moves could not change the outcome. He did not hesitate in channeling Ling power into the Blood Fiend Azura umbrella. The bloody light grew and the tang of blood in the air became even more nauseating. The bloody light that the Blood Fiend Azura umbrella released was inane and corrupt. It was a great toxin for talismans and flying swords. An unknown number of talismans had been ruined by the umbrella. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Time quickly slipped away. 10 whole breaths passed but nothing changed at all. Ning Yi's expression became slightly ugly. Under his Ling power, the bloody light had become so thick it was appeared to be a bloody waterfall. Yet no matter how intense the bloody light became, that black sword did not react at all. Even Wei Sheng, who had been wavering on the brink of collapse, was still standing. A bad feeling rose in Ning Yi's mind. He decided to attack at full power to prevent something unexpected from happening. If the cooked duck managed to flew away, then he would really regret it. Just at this time he suddenly looked and saw Wei Sheng's eyes. He couldn't help but freeze. Wei Sheng's eyes were empty and had no focus or vitality. Being stared at by such a pair of eyes, even a person as vicious as Ning Yi couldn't help but feel his hairs rise. Suddenly, Wei Sheng took on an extremely strange posture. His body arched, an arm raised like a scorpion that had raised its tail. Ning Yi's heart suddenly jumped, his expression changing. Not good. Before he could react, he saw Wei Sheng stab lightly at the empty space between them. There was no wind, no light. It seemed like a very gentle and weak stab. Pew! The blood light that was as thick as a waterfall was effortlessly cut in two by this gentle and weak stab. The sword presence penetrated the bloody light, striking one of the umbrella ribs. Pia! The rib that was struck snapped in two. Ning Yi was both shocked and furious. Each umbrella rib of the Blood Fiend Azura umbrella was forged from the whalebone, from the Yinling whale that he had delved deep into the cloud sea to hunt. Each bone was as hard as metal, and was difficult to damage with flying swords. After being immersed in the 100 grievance blood fiend for hundreds of days, each of them was strengthened, and was unable to be damaged with flying swords. If his Blood Fiend Azura umbrella was cultivated into its complete form and formed its own world, then these 13 umbrella ribs would become the pillars that held up this world. How could such hard umbrella ribs be broken so easily? And by a little youth that was in Jindan first stratum with a single sword strike? What Ning Yi found even hard to accept was that youth had just been his prey. The black sword. It was the fault of the black sword. Ning Yi stared hard at the black sword in Wei Sheng's hands, green and white mixing on his face. His eyes carried deep hatred and viciousness, but also a deep terror. The Blood Fiend Azura umbrella was his life. When this umbrella rib was broken, its power was greatly reduced. Repair was an extremely difficult matter. In the past, he had used all 13 whale bones of the Yinling whale that had obtained on this umbrella, and had not kept even one in reserve. It had been good fortune that he was able to kill the Yinling whale. Where was he going to find the Yinling whale now? What made his heart bleed even more blood was Wei Sheng's soul. Such a perfect soul was even more valuable than the umbrella rib. What was the origin of that black sword? That strike just now had been silent, but the black sword strike still gave Ningyi, a ruthless and vicious individual, a sense of foreboding from the viciousness and fiendishness essence released in that silence. Wei Sheng's empty pupils stared at Ningyi. For some unknown reason, Ningyi felt unnameable terror. Suddenly, the black sword in Wei Sheng's hand shook lightly. Ningyi's pupil suddenly shrank, and the fear in him rose. He turned to a ball of bloody light, and without hesitating, disappeared into the horizon. Turtle Island. Just you wait. If I do not avenge myself, I, Ningyi, will not be able to look at myself. A moment later, Wei Sheng fell face first like a block of wood and fell unconscious. The black sword flipped through the air, and silently floated next to Wei Sheng. Even while unconsciousness, Wei Sheng seemed to be supported by an invisible power, and did not fall into the cloud sea. Pia. The last arm of the attainment Buddha, and a ring of golden light collided together and exploded. The shadow behind Zhongru was finally unable to withstand the barrage, and after a burst of violent trembling, it disappeared. Zhongru's body shook and his face was slightly white. Yuan Xian laughed viciously. He suddenly breathed, the Skunda staff in his hand shining as he threw it out. The Skunda staff suddenly grew exponentially and like a black shadow. It howled intimidatingly as it smashed towards Zhongru. Just as Zhongru was going to be struck to death, a rainbow sword energy suddenly flew out. The rainbow sword energy was like a soft rainbow-colored ribbon, and wrapped around the Skunda staff in the air. Xieshan. Pew pew pew. The light released by the Skunda staff seemed to be slowly corroded and weakened. The size of the Skunda staff also decreased slowly. Yuan Xian's expression did not change, and still smiled viciously. His Skunda staff was forged from the yellow copper essence extracted from deep underground. Even though it was lacking compared to that prayer wheel, it was unusually heavy. His throw seemed casual, but it was actually extremely famed skill, and called the Skunda throw. The presence was heavy, like a mountain pressing down, and the other would be unable to escape. The other wanted to dissipate the power of this staff with that little bit of sword essence? That was a delusion. Yuan Xian did not look at the Skunda staff, just stared at Zhongru and waited for him to be killed. He could then take the jade scroll and the prayer wheel before he would escape the battlefield. With the jade scroll and prayer wheel, that little bit of jingsher he was offered was insignificant. Once he had these two items, he would immediately find a remote and secret place, go into seclusion to cultivate and break through into Yuanying. Xieshan saw his sword essence was unable to stop the Skunda staff. His expression changed. The situation was dangerous, he could not attend to anything else. All the Ling power in his body was channeled towards the paired mirage swords in his hands. Xieshan's cultivation was the highest of the four on their side. This explosion of Ling energy, that did not keep anything back, was extraordinarily powerful. A handful of multicolored sword energies appeared in Xieshan's hands, each as thin as silk threads. These sword energies that were in the thousands as they flew at the Skunda staff. The moment they came into contact with the staff, they suddenly turned soft and wrapped around the staff. Xieshan glared angrily and breathed out. Go away. His hand made a grab motion and pulled back. The sword energies that were in the thousands grew in intensity. In this instant, the seven-colored light enshrouded the golden light released by the Skunda staff. The Skunda staff was pulled askew by a thread to the side, brushing by Zhongru's body and falling into the deep cloud sea underneath. A thread of shock flashed through Yuan Xian's eyes. He hadn't expected the other was able to save Zhongru. However, a cold smile came onto his mouth. That sword Xiu's figure was wavering and unable to stand steady. He clearly had used up all his Ling power to avert that attack. Zhongru's expression was also pale white, and was also at the end of his strength. Without a word, with a great step he appeared in front of Zhongru, and reached out a hand to grab Zhongru. Pia. The blue soul cold light armor instantly shattered. Zhongru struggled to raise an arm, and met Yuan Xian's blow. Crack. Zhongru's arm broke. Yuan Xian showed a disdainful expression. In his eyes, Zhongru was just making his last struggle before death. He prepared the killing move when his expression suddenly changed. Wish power. Like he was bitten by a poisonous snake, his eyes instantly filled with terror, his voice was hoarse and trembling. Gray-white color was like an enchanting vine that spread to his neck. Zhongru managed a smile. The blood lotus on his head beautiful and glistening. Compared to Zhongru, Wei Sheng and Xieshan, Zuomo's battle was the extreme opposite and had gone smoothly. The black gold seal soldier's strange suction had defeated the 5-element fog shield that Zuomo was helpless against. The balance of victory had started to tilt towards Zuomo. A seal xiao that lost their most powerful talisman was left to a tragic fate when facing the Great Day Mo physique, which had shocking speed and power. Especially with Zuomo's physical way of fighting. The rapid speed caused Gu Minggong to be in a disheveled state. If it wasn't that he had several good talismans on him, he would have been beaten swollen by Zuomo. However, he wasn't much better off right now. When his last talisman was split in half by Zuomo's midday blade, his face as ashen, he didn't even have a way to escape. His speed was far slower than Zuomo, and what made him even more hopeless was that Zuomo was in a frenzy. The barrage of attacks didn't give him a chance to breathe at all. He didn't have the time to grieve over his 5-element fog shield. No matter how good the talisman was, if it was gone, he could forge another one. But if he lost his little life, then he wouldn't have anything. He only needed a span of 5 breaths and he could escape. He had a transportation seal which connected to the transportation formation in his residence. If he used it, he could return to his residence. As a seal xiao, transportation seals were something that they used as lifesavers. How could he forget one? Yet the other didn't even give him a time of 5 breaths. He used all his moves, feints, swindling, conning to try to drag out the time. But the other didn't reply to his words, only charging and killing as though the other held a great grievance against him. Gu Minggong wanted to cry. The one that lost his talisman was clearly himself. The one disheveled was clearly him. But why did the other still look so furious? But how could he know that as Zuomo fought, he recalled the 200-ling beasts he lost? The pain Zuomo felt was naturally blamed on Gu Minggong. If Gu Minggong's cultivation wasn't so much stronger than his opponent, he would not have managed to survive until now. This person was young but he was experienced, as sly as a fox. His life would end here today. His Ling power fading, Gu Minggong's thoughts ended. At this time, a hand gripped his throat. Chapter 470, Lil Misorder. Feng Shixiang is well informed. Do you recognize this formation? Li Shu looked from a distance at Turtle Island, and said quietly. Beside him was a middle-aged person named Feng Bao. Astonishment showed on his face. It seems a bit like the meridional Azure Ether formation of Azure Sky Sect. Is Turtle Island owned by a disciple of Azure Sky Sect? Azure Sky Sect? Azure Sky is a powerful seal cultivator sect that is very powerful in Black Knight Jia. They do not have many disciples, but they are most skilled in forging and seal creating, so the sect is extremely rich. What is most wondrous about Azure Sky Sect is the sect protecting formation, called the Meridional Azure Ether Formation. It is extremely powerful, Feng Bai explained. Black Knight Jia. Li Shu was slightly shocked. So far away? And very, very far. Feng Bai nodded. Why did they run to Cloud Sea Jia? Elishu's brow creased. I do not know that. Feng Bai smiled and said. What is Shitty worried about? According to what I know, the disciples of Azure Sky Sect are skilled in forging and seals, but they are peaceful and rarely enter conflicts against others. Then it's strange, Li Shu said as he shook his head. Shixiang may not know this. While these people from Turtle Island do not cause conflicts, they are not peaceful people. Their moves are vicious and decisive, and the battalion they have are clearly veterans that have been on the battlefield. They would be hard to deal with. There's something like that. Feng Bao said in wonder. Then I wouldn't know. Azure Sky Sect is too distant from us. It would require several years to go and investigate. I had only seen accounts of this formation by coincidence. Li Shu seemed to be pondering something and did not speak. Sounds of violent explosions came from Turtle Island occasionally, the lights of all kinds of spells illuminating the sky. The Tian family's explosive barrage of attacks was still continuing. Suddenly, Feng Bao made a light sound. And the formation has been penetrated? Li Shu woke up with shock and looked over. The Tian family battalions that had been packed in the sky above Turtle Island were flowing furiously towards Turtle Island. Had the formation of Turtle Island fallen? What? Ma Fan thought that he had heard it wrong. Beside him, Lei Peng, Nian Lu and the others were frozen on their spots. Didn't hear clearly? I said you can solve this problem yourselves. Gong Sun Cha showed a harmless smile. You have the ability to solve a battle of this level by yourselves. Finishing, he shrugged, spread his hands, and looked away at ease. Ma Fan instantly became frantic. His first response was, damn it, which dumbass had offended Lil Miss, dragging everyone down to feel the pain. It wasn't the first time something like this occurred. Once someone caused Lil Miss to show this demonic smile. What would follow would cause the Vermilion Bird Camp to be tormented together. When it was serious, even Guard Camp was unable to avoid the calamity. Darren, this is not possible. Ma Fan lowered his voice and said fawningly, without you we are blind. You are the bright light in the middle of the great sea, our helmsman. Only on your hands can we express our greatest power. You are our spine. We can lack anyone, but how can we lack you? Even Boss has said you are a gold battle general. Lil Miss smiled slightly bashfully as though he was embarrassed at hearing Ma Fan's undisguised flattery. Yet Ma Fan and the others instantly had a foreboding feeling. Your flattery is slightly sickening but mostly truth. Lil Miss smiled bashfully. Yes, yes, yes. The foreboding feeling increased, but Ma Fan and the others hurriedly nodded in agreement. But I am a gold battle general. That Tian family, at most it is a silver battle general, it is worth of my attention. Lil Miss smiled brightly, his face like a flower, and showed 2 rows of white teeth. You have stayed with me for this long. If you can't even kill a silver battle general, then you might as well cut your own necks. Lil Miss smiled prettily again, and everyone felt their backs dampen with cold sweat. I'm not joking. So Lil Miss really wasn't joking. Stumbling and crawling out of Lil Miss' place, everyone huddled together and started to discuss. No way Lil Miss wants to play us to death? Someone wailed. Don't cry, think of a solution. If we really can't kill the Tian family, how wait for it? If we don't cut our own necks, Lil Miss will hand us the blade. Or he might just snap it. That is also possible. Hazy motioned. Everyone shuddered in unison. Even a fearless person like Lei Peng was slightly white. Especially when the scene of Lil Miss holding a blade as he smiled shyly appeared in their minds. Uncontrollably they all shook again. Brothers! If the Tian family doesn't die, then we will die. A brother's face was full of grief and excitement. Kill the Tian family. Kill him. Kill him. Everyone's eyes were red as their voices almost blew off the roof of the building. When the noise quieted, Lei Peng's voice rumbled. Old Fan A ran. You two have the most ideas, quick, think of something. The other people looked at Ma Fan and Wei Ran. In the eyes of everyone, these two were the best at strategizing in Vermilion Bird Camp. Ma Fan had been the core before and with his personality preferred to use his cunning rather than his blade. Wei Ran was not as smart as Ma Fan, but he was a reliable person that was widely trusted. The first to speak was Wei Ran. He said in a low voice, it is not enough to complete this with just our Vermilion Bird Camp. Defeating them is easy, but Lil Miss wants us to kill them. This is slightly difficult. Most importantly, we cannot let any of them escape. Ma Fan's eyes lit up. Why don't we use a bolt the door to beat the dog tactic? Bolt the door to beat the dog. We'll let them in and then close the formation of the island. This way they cannot escape. Ma Fan's eyes were bright. This idea is good. Wei Ren clapped his hands in excitement. The other people also showed excitement. All of them had lots of battle experience, but none of them had experience being in charge before. Someone quickly added, then we have to be careful. If the defeated battle Xiao of the Tian family damages the Ling fields of the island. Yes. Lil Miss is not good to offend, and we can't touch Boss. If Boss comes back and sees serious damage, then we won't have a good outcome either. And then, we need to have enough manpower. It seems that we really have to ask Guard Camp for help. Let's do this. Xu Long caressed the great black halberd in his hand. This great black halberd was even larger than the one he had formed from killing essence. and its shape was simpler. There was only a single spike that was shaped like a bird's head, and a dark red blade seemed to have been dyed in fresh blood. What was most eerie was the design. A blue-gray eye on the head of the halberd. From a distance, it looked like a black crow standing on top of a black stick. An intoxicated smile floated onto Shulong's face as he gripped it in his hands. A feeling of intimacy came from the body of the halberd, and made him feel as though it was his flesh and blood. All of the MO weapons in the Black Pond had used totem fragments. Each MO weapon seemed to be alive, and caused each of them to have a unique presence. But the presence of the MO weapons were not like the intelligent presences of the talismans and flying swords, but were vicious and dark. It was possible to see their viciousness at a glance. The presence of the black halberd in Shulong's hands was the most unique. There was no viciousness, just a barely discernible desolate presence. It may be due to fate that Owen received a MO weapon that was identical to the one he had formed from killing essence. It was a dark green spear. The body of the spear was streamlined and etched with complex patterns which made it feel comfortable in the hand. The shape of the green spear was unique. The spear was shaped like a ruler-straight green snake, and the head of the spear reached out of the snake's jaw. The eyes of the snake were eerily open. All 300 MO weapons had chosen their masters. The remaining people could only wait for a future round of forging. At the beginning, people were uncaring because no one had seen MO weapons before, but after the MO weapons came out, everyone had jealous eyes. Each MO weapon was like a piece of art, simple or exquisite. They all caused people's hearts to move. Shulong raised his head. He saw every person that received a MO weapon were caressing their MO weapons in intoxication. He smiled imperceptibly, and then he hid away his smile under a serious expression. Just now, Ma Fan had sent a message explaining the situation outside, and also describing their plan. Shulong did not know why Lil Miss Darren did not act, but he knew that since Lil Miss Darren sent down the order, it could not be changed. Lil Miss Darren rarely directed guard camp directly, but that did not lessen his authority or legitimacy of his orders. He did not learn battle tactics from Lil Miss Darren, and was instead taught by that mysterious person. He did not have any objections to Ma Fan's plan. This plan was actually very good. Okay, clean up and prepare to go. Let them see the power of our guard camp. Shulong's voice spread into the entire mountain cave. His voice was full of bravado. Receiving the MO weapons, guard camp were like tigers that had wings. The large formation in front of them had suddenly opened. The fertile Turtle Island was like an inviting female, with legs spread in front of them. Tian Hengbo was full of joy. His already bloodshot eyes murderous as he shouted, "Kill!" The 6th Jindan changed out at the front. The 2 battalions behind them seemed full of adrenaline as they furiously howled and charged with vicious expressions. They feared being slower than the others. The Tian family was like a flood bursting the dam, unable to be stopped. Ling fields appeared in everyone's vision, as though they were able to reach out and touch them. Everyone couldn't help but become excited. These Ling fields were going to belong to the Tian family. Possessing Turtle Island, the Tian family would become even stronger, and the service they provided in this battle would allow them to receive enough benefits. No one could stop them. In reality, their breakthrough was unusually smooth. They did not encounter any resistance along the way. No, they did not encounter one person. Wait. The corner of Tian Hengbo's eyes jumped and his expression changed slightly. They didn't encounter one person? Where were the people? At this moment, he saw something out of the corner of his eye. He stilled slightly and hurriedly turned around his face. In this moment, his pupils suddenly contracted and the blood drained from his face. Chapter 471. Perfect execution. The sharp howls were like the wails of ghosts that tore through the air. The hum unique to the 3-section wave killing charge caused people's scalps to tingle. The dense pack of sword shio were like a barrage of arrows that charged out. They struck as quick as lightning. Tian Hengbo paled greatly. He opened his mouth and wanted to remind everyone, but before he could make a sound, the sword shio of Turtle Island had reached them. Bam! Nearby, a Tian family disciple's Ling armor shattered into countless pieces. The The sword energy flashed across this disciple's neck with its remaining power, like a knife slicing tofu. A head flew into the sky. Tian Hengbo even saw the shock on the face of the Tian family disciple. Pia pia pia. Caught off guard, the combat xiao of the Tian family were struck by the sword lights. The third-grade Ling armor they wore was as fragile as papier-mâché in front of the other's sharp sword energies and shattered, blood to spray everywhere. In what seemed like a blink of the eye, hundreds of Tian family disciples were slaughtered by the sword lights. The troops instantly became chaotic. The other was like a burning blade slicing through butter, and created a vast corridor of blood among the ranks of the Tian family. In this bloody passage of 20 zhang wide, the blood and flesh of the Tian family disciples sprayed, and they all died standing where they were. Seeing the Tian family disciples die in front of him, Tian Hengbo's eyes filled with blood. The murderousness and viciousness in his chest was like a burning flame. Kill them! He seemed like furious lion that charged first at the sword xiao. The other 5 Jindan beside him also let out angry shouts at the same time, and charged with Tian Hengbo. In this chaotic battlefield, the 6 Jindan were like 6 dazzling suns. The presence they gave off was intimidating, and the presence of the 6 together overtook the Turtle Island sword xiao. The disciples of the Tian family roared. Their morale that had been dampened by the sudden assault by Ma Fan's group now rose. The 6 Jindan were like 6 sharp arrows that were unstoppable. The other combat xiao followed behind them, forming 6 streams that leapt at Ma Fan's group. The expressions of Ma Fan and the others changed slightly. They hadn't expected the other to have deployed 6 Jindan. For the present Turtle Island, 6 Jindan was enough to be fatal. If it was only the 6 Jindan, then he wasn't afraid. Their strength was enough to grind the Jindan to death. But the Jindan had so many normal combat xiao as well, and these 6 Jindan were fearlessly charging at the very front. The situation had become troublesome. Ma Fan and the others knew if they allowed the other Jindan to charge like this, the other side would be in a frenzy. Even if they won, their side would be wounded heavily. But Darren and the others were not here. Wei Ran was the one best at maintaining his composure. Even though the situation was extremely urgent, his voice did not change at all. Withdraw inwards. Stretch the distance between their forces. Everyone was quick-witted, instantly reacting. They did not fight, instead they turned and ran into the island. Seeing the Turtle Island sword xiao running away, the morale of the Tian family combat increased, and they howled as they chased. The fierce blow that they had just suffered was forgotten, and all of them showed extreme excitement. One side was furiously feeling, and the other was furious pursuing. No one noticed that below them, a pair of eyes that flashed with purple energy and a vicious large bird was watching them. Ma Fan and the others were exceptionally fast. As the troop that had followed Zhuo the longest, retreat and escape was a class they had to take. In the past, when Zhuo and the other Jindan were present, they would help get rid of the Jindan. So Ma Fan and the others did not have many opportunities to face the Jindan head-on. Having 6 Jindan on their tail for the first time, they put all of their energy into running. Their sword lights were even faster than when they had just charged. But the other was still tightly following behind them, especially the 6 Jindan who were quickly closing the distance between them. The 6 Jindan gradually separated from the combat xiao, but this distance was not enough. If they turned around and charged now, then they would be entangled in battle with the Jindan, and the combat xiao would charge and tear them apart. Kill Jindan first. All divisions spread out. Lead them out and circle around. Ensure they pull away from all the damned cannon fodder. Ma Fan gritted out. The teamwork between these people showed at this time. The entire troop suddenly scattered like a flower blooming. This time, the Tian family combat xiao were stunned. Who do they chase? Tian Hengbo's eyes were filled with blood as he chased the people at the very front. They looked like the leaders. Those sword xiao had the highest cultivation of those he saw, and should be the leaders of this group. The Jindan beside him hesitated and charged with Tian Hengbo. Tian Hengbo was Tian Yongqing's full-blooded brother, and ensuring Tian Hengbo's safety was one of their duties. The Tian family disciples behind them lacked orders, and their ranks instantly became a mess. Many people scattered into small groups to chase the Turtle Island sword xiao that were fleeing. The The sky about Turtle Island instantly became a mess. Idiot. Tianyi, who had not charged into Turtle Island, couldn't help but curse. He wasn't on good terms with Tian Hengbo. In his eyes, Tian Hengbo was a brute with courage but had no cunning. What made him the most discontent was that Tian Yongqing had assigned 6 Jindan to Tian Hengbo. His battalion only had 2 Jindan. This was something that the prideful Tianyi could not accept. After swearing, Tianyi smiled coldly and did not move. In reality, from the beginning to now, the enemy troops were undamaged. The seemingly chaotic scene was an illusion that they purposefully orchestrated. Watching the battle up until now, Tianyi had a preliminary judgment. This was a troop that was very strong. Their charging strength was extremely strong. They had practiced tactics, and they were high cooperative. They could rival his own battalion. If there had to be a shortcoming, it was experts. He had not seen any of the experts in this troop. This caused him puzzlement. Tian Yongqing did not tell Tianyi the battle plan. He had sent Tian Hengbo in hopes he could take the chance to get some service merit. Yet the development of events was not as smooth as Tian Yongqing and Tian Hengbo had expected. Tianyi was not in a hurry. In his view, Tian Hengbo was a Jindan and had 5 Jindan protecting him, so safety was not a problem. As to losses, Tianyi wanted Tian Hengbo to suffer as many casualties as possible. This could show just how strong Tianyi was. With the skill level of this battalion, they most likely had planned follow-up moves. The Xiuzha following behind Ma Fan, and the others decreased. Even 3 Jindan had felt that chasing like this was not as satisfactory as going to kill enemies, so they went in search of other targets. These guys were not very powerful, but were very slippery when fleeing. After chasing for only a few moments, there were only 2 people left by Tian Hengbo. No one noticed the sword xiu that were flying in all directions in the sky drew out long and strange curved paths. And the other end of these paths intersected at a place hidden from view. It was like the bloomed flower that was closing. Watching from a distance, Tianyi seemed to detect something. His brow creased slightly. His eyes suddenly widened and his eyes showed shock. Heavens, how did they do it? Those complex curved lines only had one destination. How had they done this in such a complex environment? It was hard to imagine. But Tianyi's face quickly changed. Not good. Tian Hengbo was in danger. In his field of vision, Tian Hengbo was lured by the other continuously closer to the intersection point. Tianyi was instantly panicked and shouted, "Advance!" The Xiuzha of Tianyi battalion all paused. Didn't boss say they were going to wait here? Why were they advancing so suddenly? Tian Hengbo's side clearly had the advantage. Do you not have ears? Tianyi shouted angrily. Everyone seemed to wake up and flew towards Turtle Island. Seeing Tian Hengbo rushing nearer to the intersection point, Tianyi felt great panic. He had conflict with Tian Hengbo, but if Tian Hengbo died here, and he only looked on, then there would be great trouble when he returned to the clan. The present leader of the Tian family was Tian Yongqing. It was alright to get Tian Hengbo to lose face, but to have Tian Hengbo to lose his life. Yet from when Tian Hengbo had passed through the formation, Tianyi battalion had stayed at the back. When Tian Hengbo had charged into Turtle Island, Tianyi battalion had not moved a step forward. For the first time of his life, Tianyi hoped his prediction would not become reality. Ma Fan and the others raised their speed to the limits, the howling in the ears drowning out all other noise. They were fleeing for their lives. Jindan, what was chasing them were Jindan. Even if they were half a step into Jindan, when they were facing true Jindan Xiuzha, they still felt a great pressure. Fortunately, they were not fighting by themselves. They were familiar with every inch of Turtle Island. The scenes rushing past underneath their feet indicated to them their position, and their eyes became bright. The howling was still in their ears. Yet at this time, their attention was unprecedentedly focused. A nondescript little hill passed by their feet. The eyes of Ma Fan's group lit up. All the Ling power in their bodies vibrating, their extreme speed increasing slightly. This was the moment. Light suddenly rose in the sky above them. The blinding light caused everything they saw to be a white daze. They forced themselves to tolerate the blinding light. Their speed maintained as they continued to fly. A sword energy the width of a door brushed dangerously past Ma Fan's body and caused his hairs to stand. This was a signal. Ma Fan seemed to be suddenly situated inside a storm of enormous sword energies. The hum of sword energies filled his ears. The intimidating sword essences flashed past, and he would shake every time. This was the large sword energies that the 3-section wave killing charge used to face large-scale targets and experts. Each sword energy was made from the combined power of 3 sword xiao. 100 large sword energies came from all directions, and were as packed together as rain as they smashed into an area of 3 zhang around Tian Hengbo and the 2 Jindan. Clang. 100 large sword essences with unstoppable presence collided together. Collision, crumbling fragmentation, explosion. A light even brighter than the one before exploded forth. The enormous wave of sound carried countless fragmented sword essences. Everywhere it passed, it caused people's minds to blank just like their vision. The entire battlefield became deathly silent. Chapter 472. The balance tilts no matter which side they were on. People were shocked at such a fearsome scene. This was a perfect operation. No matter if it was Ma Fan's team that had lured the enemy, or the 300 sword xiao that had come from all directions and silently executed the ambush, including the coordination where the sword energies passed by with a distance of only a hair's thickness, it could all be called perfect. When 100 large sword energies exploded in such a small area, the presence produced was so terrifying that even the 2 Jindan did not manage to respond before being reduced to ash. Recovering from the enormous explosion, the reaction on the 2 sides was completely different. The Tian family disciples had dazed expressions. The abrupt change was like a punch that struck their head and stunned them. Many people did not know what had happened, and those with keen eyes felt their heads ring and turn blank. What followed were ashen faces. For Ma Fan and the others, even though this attack was filled with luck and was unable to be repeated, it inspired their morale. Ma Fan and Wei Ran felt their confidence increase. The hint of timidity that was caused by the absence of Lil Miss also dissipated. Some of the sword xiao of Vermilion Bird Camp still had disbelief on their faces. The actions they had planned and carried out had successfully ambushed and killed 2 Jindan. In a battlefield that was small and enclosed, the death of 2 Jindan could change many things. In this perfect operation, the ambush was the signal for the full-scale counterattack from Vermilion Bird Camp. When the Tian family disciples still had cluelessness on their faces, the sky full of sword hums were like fatal noises that sounded in unison. The large turtle island gave the Vermilion Bird Camp sword xiao a large battlefield, so they could continuously accelerate and charge. One side was confused and puzzled, the other had increased morale. The chaotic battlefield instantly became one-sided. Sprays of blood erupted, howls and people continuously fell down. There were Tian family disciples that resisted, but as the conflict between the 2 sides increased, their hearts became chilled. Hands holding 5th grade golden crystal sword, wearing 4th grade blue soul cold light armor, the Vermilion Bird Camp sword xiao looked like rich tycoons facing the Tian family disciples that mostly wore 3rd grade Ling armor. When facing a sword xiao that was outfitted like this, it would cause one to feel helpless from the bottom of their hearts. If the other's sword strike did not kill them, it would wound them, and they would need to attack 3 times in a row to possibly cause damage to the enemy. If the difference in talismans between the 2 sides was not enough to deflate their courage, then the enormous difference in tactics caused their hopelessness to spread. The Turtle Island sword xiao were like packs of cunning and vicious wolves. They never moved alone, always in groups of 3 to 5. Even if the enemy was one person, they would still surround them in groups of 3 to 5. If they encountered a strong opponent, these fragmented little teams would nimbly gather from all directions and furiously charge. Their charges were furious and inexhaustible. Their sword lights sharp and unstoppable. They were cold and merciless. They were regulated and well organized. They were trained tactically. They were like demons that were born from the eerie fires of hell, and carried the presence of death. The sky seemed to be dyed red by the sprays of blood that erupted. The criss-crossing cold sword lights were the magnificent flowers when death captured life. The weak defense of the Tian family disciples were drowned completely in the endless sword lights. Tian Hao's lips were trembling as his body uncontrollably shook. The sky full of sword howling was like countless owls croaking. He felt that he would be torn up in the next instant. He wasn't a novice, and was the elite of the battalion. He had seen situations of many sizes. But he still uncontrollably shook. He understood that the intimidating howling of the enemy attacks was the result of purposefully loosening their control of Ling power, but he still uncontrollably felt fear. He had never thought there would be a day that he would face such fearsome enemies. The talismans and flying swords that were worthy of envy and jealousy were not enough to defeat a battle-hardened veterans. He had killed many enemies with more powerful talismans than he had. This group of enemies gathered and scattered suddenly, and were hard to predict. Each charge would be decisive. No matter how bad the situation was, or what advantage the enemy had, they would always maintain their little tactical formations. They were like machines that only knew to slaughter. They did not deviate, and did not make one mistake. There was nothing more frightening than this, or could make Tian Hao feel more hopeless. He suddenly felt the Tian family was so stupid. Why had they challenged an enemy that was so much powerful than they were? The sword lights in the sky grew and brushed through the sky like a comb. No matter how the enemies within the sword lights struggled and resisted, they were like fragile bubbles that popped upon contact. As the advantage on one side increased, the rhythm of battle would quickly increase. Another Jindan fell. From beginning to now, the 6 Jindan were important targets that Vermilion Bird Camp focused on. This Jindan had been dragged down by 150 Vermilion Bird Camp Sword Xiao and died due to using up all of his Ling power. Even the 3 remaining Jindan felt their courage flee, much less those Tian family disciples. In this short period of time, 3 Jindan had died. They had never been through such a desperate battle. It was too frightening. They were Jindan and had more experienced eyes than other combat Xiao. The golden flying swords in the hands of the enemy sword Xiao was a frightening high degree, and even more powerful than the most outstanding 4th grade flying swords, being even stronger than the most outstanding 4th grade flying swords. So what grade was it? Looking at the matching golden flying swords, they didn't dare to think. Flee. Losing their courage, the Tian family disciples ran away in a disorganized manner. They just wanted to leave this fearsome place as fast as possible. They did not put up any resistance because any resistance would affect their speed of escape. There was only one thought in their minds: flee. Flee as fast as possible. What family laws, what disciplehood, that was all thrown away at this time. It was unknown who it started with, but at this time, the ranks collapsed like an avalanche. All of the people shouted, and then turned and fled for their lives. The fleeing crowd and the Tianyi battalion that had rushed over at full power now collided together. Tianye's face suddenly changed. The combat Xiao at the front of the battalion shifted. Those clansmen that were completely in a frenzy charged into their battalion. In the eyes of these Tian family disciples that had lost their last threads of bravery, if they neared the Tian family battalion, they would be able to survive. The defeated soldiers flooded at Tianyi battalion like a tide. Do not collide. Tianyi shouted urgently. His pupils suddenly expanded, and his voice stopped abruptly. Sword light. All over the horizon. An angry wave composed from numerous sword lights were tightly following behind this group of fleeing soldiers, and were aimed at him. Tianyi glared angrily, but his brain was still clear as ever. He knew if he hesitated in this moment, the entire troop would be lost. He shouted furiously, "Kill!" Tianyi battalion had gone to Blood Sky Metropolis. Jia had had more battle experience than normal battalions. These combat Xiao might not bear to do it, but they understood if their battle formation became disorganized, then they would all die. Their eyes were red as they shouted at the top of their lungs, "Kill!" Those Tian family disciples never had expected that Tianyi battalion would move against them. Unguarded, blood sprayed out and 70 or so Tian family disciples died instantly. Tianye's move was cruel, but it was effective and showed his decisiveness as an exceptional silver battle general. But he did not know that underneath their position, there was another troop waiting for them. The bright and beautiful sword lights attracted everyone's gaze. The appearance of Xulong's group was silent, and did not attract any attention. The 300 hardship guards that had just received MO weapons were so silent they were like statues. Xu Long coldly looked at the sky, his handsome face calm. Xu Long could not be said to be a battle general, but he had received Pu Yao's teachings and his eyes were not lacking. Pu Yao had once thought of nurturing Xu Long into a battle general, but the path of Yao battle generals and Mo battle generals were completely different paths. Only a freak like Zhua Mo could naturally feel the power of others. However, Xu Long did not lack the knowledge and judgment that a battle general should have. He could see that Ma Fan's group had the advantage. Guard Camp and Vermilion Bird Camp were in a competitive relationship, but that was a deliberate manipulation by Xu Long and Ma Fan. Xu Long had a deep understanding of the combat capabilities of Vermilion Bird Camp. He knew very well when Vermilion Bird Camp held the advantage in battle. Then it wasn't far from the end of battle. So he did not move, and stealthily hid, waiting to give those defeated soldiers a fatal blow. But when he saw Tianyi Battalion coming to aid, he changed his mind. In boss words, that was a fatter sheep. Born a sword xiao, Xu Long had endurance other people could not rival. He silently waited for a chance. Until this moment. Kill! Xu Long bellowed as the black halberd in his hand stabbed into the sky. The black mist that surrounded the black halberd formed a 3-zhang long halberd shadow that howled into the sky. Kill! 300 hardship guards shouted together, and attacked with the MO weapons in their hands. 300 black misty shadows of various shapes were 300 shrieking crows that shot at Tianyi Battalion in the sky. The black mist released by the hardship guards merged into one patch that moved relentlessly. It was the Crow Fiend MO kill formation. Xu Long's black halberd shadow was like an enormous nail that pierced into the ranks of Tianyi Battalion. Pia, a moderate explosion, the halberd exploded and turned to a thick ball of black mist that covered dozens of combat xiao. The 300 black shadows that came after exploded at the same time, and became thick black mist that covered half of the Tianyi Battalion combat xiao. Tianyi Battalion was preparing for the incoming sword energy attacks. This sudden change caused confusion to spread through the ranks, resulting in chaos. Tianyi was both shocked and angry. He was shrouded in the black mist and couldn't even see his fingers. So vicious. At this point in battle to use this kind of spell to obscure their vision, they were really vicious. Shocked and angry he yelled. All on defense. Prepare to face sword energies. Just at this time, the black mist that seemed harmless and only served obscured people's vision suddenly bared its fangs. Chapter 473. Fatal Blow. Tian Yi felt the situation was terrible. He didn't know what talisman the black mist had been forged from, but it was extremely thick, obscuring their vision. In front of him was a black expanse so thick he could not even see his fingers, but he could clearly sense the nervousness of the guards that were next to him. The attack that followed definitely would be ferocious. The attack wave constructed from countless sword energies caused him to feel deep worry. Even though he had only managed to take a glance, his battalion was strong offensively and weak defensively. The defensive formation they usually practiced, the Sky Sunflower Guard formation, was not an outstanding defense formation. He was doubtful about how long the Sky Sunflower Guard formation could hold up under such a strong charge. He already prepared himself for losing his soldiers, if it wasn't for this black mist. Even though there would still be losses, this situation would lead to many more than he previously expected. He had absolute confidence in his command. Yet what shocked him and surprised him was that the Sky Ray Treasure Lens was completely ineffective against this black mist. The Sky Ray Treasure Lens was the most important talisman on his body, and was his only 6th grade talisman. It could see through illusory spells and techniques, could view things outside 1,000 li, and could be called a wondrous treasure. The Sky Ray Treasure Lens was the top reason that they had managed to survive in Blood Sky Metropolis Jia. Yet this talisman that never failed him before was ineffective today. Because of the island formation, he had been unable to view the island from the outside. The Sky Ray Treasure Lens was also non-responsive against this black mist, and had made Tianyi suspect that it was broken. This black mist was probably a special talisman. Tianyi thought about this, but more of his attention was placed on the sword energy wave that was soon to arrive. After roaming in Blood Sky Metropolis Jia for a long time, he had seen many strange talismans, one stranger than even this, and naturally did not feel great wonder. Suddenly, a light grunt came from beside him. However, this did not attract Tianye's attention. The howling of the sword energy wave was like thunder in comparison, and the entire sky seemed to be trembling from its approach. Under this terrifying wave of sound, no one paid attention to the occasional grunts that sounded from inside the black mist. Everyone's nerves were stretched tight, and Sky Sunflower Guard formation was channeled to its maximum. The first to detect something was not right was Tianyi. His face suddenly changed. Not good. There was a plot. The tang of blood was faintly discernible in the black mist seemed to prove his speculation. Unafraid of anything, Tianye's face was ashen. His expanded pupils were full of disbelief, and also had deep terror. Sky Sunflower Guard formation. It was Sky Sunflower Guard formation that was telling him. As the main commander of the battalion, every change in the battle formation would be reported to him. He has just noticed that the power of the Sky Sunflower Guard formation was slightly less than half its usual strength. This discovery almost stopped his breathing. This wasn't possible. He was not an useless person, and he had relied on his actual skills to obtain this position. In just an instant he understood everything and was dumbstruck. In this short period, only 2/3 of the combat Shio were left in the Sky Sunflower Guard formation. How was this possible? He almost didn't dare to believe this result. This battalion's members had been handpicked by him. He had taken them to Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia, and gone through many hardships to bring them back to Cloud Sea Jia. These subordinates that were unwaveringly loyal to him, he understood them better than anyone. They definitely would not make such a fatal mistake at such a crucial time. The only possibility was that 1/3 of the combat Shio had been assassinated unknowingly. He suddenly realized that the black mist wasn't used to just obscure their vision. It hid a murderousness plot. At this time, one of his personal guards slumped over without any strength. "Ayong!" Tianyi shouted in shock. For the first time, he felt terror. The black mist that was almost tangible in front of his eyes seemed to hit a vicious beast that could not be seen, and would consume lives at any moment. Tianye's shout did not attract the attention of other combat Shio because of the sword energies. The howling of the sword energy great wave drowned out everything, like the howling and barks of countless Yao beasts. They charged like a tide, furious and bloodthirsty. Bam bam bam. Facing this terrifying wave of sword energy, the light of the defensive formation was as fragile as glass, and upon contact, it turned to powder in the black mist. The collapse of the battle formation undoubtedly signaled the fate of this group of combat Shio. In battles between battalions, when their formation was shattered, especially their defense formation, that meant failure. The talismans on the soldiers' bodies were not any different than papier-mâché in front of the vast expanse of sword energies. The combat Shio that lost the protection of the battle formation didn't even have time to wail before they were torn to pieces by the flood of sword energies. The moment the battle formation shattered, Tianyi knew that they had lost this battle. Lost completely. His terror disappeared, and he showed the rebellious smile he usually had. Dying under the sword of such an opponent, it was a worthy death. Flee, flee, flee. The 3 Jindan were like homeless dogs, hating that their parents hadn't given birth to them with a pair of wings. In their frantic retreat, none of them displayed the usual composure of a Jindan. They had originally prepared to flee towards the Tianyi battalion, as it was the top battalion of the Tian family, and was very strong. If they could run there, they should be safe. The 3 of them were Jindan cultivation, and Tianyi would definitely recruit them. If they could help Tianyi get some combat service, then they would find it easy to return home. They were different than those others that were recruited from the outside. They were born Tian family members, and their own family members were in the clan. If they were not forced to, then they would not leave the Tian family. Who knew the Tianyi battalion that they put their high hopes on couldn't even stand up under one encounter, and had turned to ash. The 3 completely lost of their courage. That was Tianyi battalion. The true top battalion of the Tian family. A battalion that could rank in all of Cloud Sea Jia. Ow. How could it be destroyed just like that? Terror was like a powerful poison that spread to every corner of their body and ate at every one of their nerves. There was only one thought in their minds: stay far from this ghastly place. Farther. They flew furiously. Yet what they had not expected was that because their speed was much faster than other combat Xiao, they were extremely eye-catching and had attracted Lil Pagoda's attention. Before, Ma Fan's plan had been to bolt the door and beat the dog. They were to lure the Tian family into the island, and then close the large formation to destroy all of them on the island. Yet no one had expected Tianyi Battalion to not advance with the others, and not enter Turtle Island as they had expected. Due to this, Lil Pagoda still had not received the order to close the island formation. But when Lil Paogda saw the three Jindan about the escape from the island formation, it became panicked and instantly closed the formation without a word. In a blink, black clouds appeared in the sky. Thunder roared in the cloud layers and silver snakes arced. The black clouds came extremely quickly, as though it appeared out of everywhere. The expressions of the three Jindan changed dramatically. They were not dumb and understood what the other intended: to kill them all. Among the thick black clouds, the curving electric snakes caused their hearts to tremble. The terrifying power was like a storm that blew against the weak mental barriers of the three. Yet the last straw that broke the camel's back was the azure light that was faintly discernible. The three felt themselves frozen, and all of them had hopeless expressions. When had they ever been pushed to such a hopeless state? After becoming Jindan, failure and setbacks seemed to distance themselves, and they were forever the objects of admiration. But right now, the hopelessness on the person leading gradually turned to viciousness. His face was twisted, his eyes full of uncaring frenzy as he shouted, "Brothers! Kill one to break even." His harsh and hopeless voice suddenly stopped, his expression freezing on his face as though he became statue in a flash. He dropped down from the sky, bam, and hit the ground heavily. There wasn't a thread of life on his body. Following the fall of their fellow, the Jindan seemed to see a ghost. There was a wooden-faced young female, and a large bird silently standing near his body. The young female did not have any expression on her face, her eyes empty and without emotion. The large bird beside her was staring with a vicious expression at them. Was it this seemingly lifeless young female that had just attacked? They found it hard to believe. This young female did not seem to be exceptional in any regard, and they were even unable to feel any Ling power vibration from her body. No one told them the answer. Endless terror consumed their minds. Other than terror, their eyes could not hold anything else. The bravery to drag others into death with them was erased by this eerie attack. This was an eerie place. Everything was so eerie. Otherwise, why would they have been defeated? Why did Tianyi Battalion get defeated so quickly? Why did they have to die here? Why was not one person able to escape? Everything was like a nightmare in front of them. Their gazes were scattered and their presences became chaotic. They heard a clear chirp among their blurriness, and it seemed to have a thread of disdain. What followed was a pain in their chest, and then they did not know anything. Looking at the black clouds that shrouded the entire Turtle Island, Li Shu showed a serious expression. At his side, Feng Bai's expression was shocked. Is all of Tian family going to die here? I hadn't expected that this Turtle Island's strength was so. It isn't bad. Li Shu did not speak. Feng Shixiang said that Turtle Island wasn't bad, but it could be heard from his tone that he was indifferent. This was very normal. Feng Shixiang was just passing through Cloud Xijia and did not understand the Tian family's strength, so he would be like this. But Li Shu understood the Tian family's strength, and deep worry entered his eyes. Chapter 474. A visit from Liao Qichong. After victory of the battle at Turtle Island, Lil Mis did not hesitate and instantly retaliated against the Tian family. Their battalions killed. The remaining Tian family forces were not a match for Vermilion Bird Camp and quickly collapsed. Even the old Master Tian that was in seclusion in hopes of breaking through to Yuanying had to come out to save them. Yet Zuemo and the others had returned by this time. With all of the experts in attendance, even though old Master Tian had Jindan third stratum cultivation, he could not stop Zuemo and the others from ganging up on him and was killed. The battle that occurred between Turtle Island and the Tian family astounded all of Suling City. The Tian family's instantaneous destruction was a great blow to many people, especially those businesses that had allied with the Tian family to work against Turtle Island. They were terrified and many of them even fled Suling City during the night. What was worthy of speculation was Suling Sect's attitude. Suling Sect had not reacted to such a significant event, as though they did not notice it had occurred. Having taken over the Tian family's territory and Ling fields, Turtle Island jumped to become the second power of Suling City, and its reputation shot up. The news that followed after pushed Turtle Island's reputation to even greater heights. Someone found had Yuan Xian's bones. Yuan Xian was found on a desolate island. His fleshly body had been destroyed, only leaving behind pale white bones. If it was not his personal effects and artifacts that proved he was Yuan Xian, no one would connect this pile of white bones to the top-ranked expert of Cloud Xijia. Yuan Xian was dead. Ning Yi and Gu Minggong had disappeared. The business people of Suling City entered a period of unprecedented terror. The businesses that could escape Suling City all ran, while many of the remaining businesses could not leave Suling City, due to various reasons, could only await their fates. The news of the Tian family were nightmares that did not allow them to rest at night. Suling City was full of terror. At this time Turtle Island was full of joy and cheer. This battle had been a dangerous one, but they had achieved victory in the end. Starting from yesterday, everyone was inventorying the spoils, and all of them couldn't help but smile. The richness of the harvest this time surpassed everyone's predictions. The Tian family was very rich, as would be expected of a family with a long history. It dazzled Zuomo's eyes and caused him to drool. He finally knew that he had underestimated these local families. In just Jingshi, there were 36 6th-grade Jingshi, and the talismans of various types were innumerable. There were 2 6th-grade talismans. Other than the Sky Ray Treasure Lens, the other was a rare 6th-grade Ling Plant Talisman, Earth Spirit Matter Conveying Stone. He had taken the Earth Spirit Matter Conveying Stone from the body of the old Master Tian. He didn't know what this stone was forged from. It could continuously release Ling power and nurture all substances. It was a wondrous treasure. Even Zuomo had never seen such a wondrous talisman before. There were also many 4th and 5th grade talismans, but they no longer interested Zuomo. He gave them as rewards to the members with outstanding accomplishments in battle. What were the most numerous was the Tian family's Ling fields and Ling mines. The Tian family had started out as Ling plant farmers, and even Suling sect could not compare to them in terms of Ling fields. The Tian family also had the largest number of Ling plant farmers. Under the soft and hard tactics from the Tian family, these Ling plant farmers had signed death contracts. Now that the Tian family was defeated, they also became Zuomo's spoils of battle. However, Zuomo had decided not to reveal the formations on the Ling fields of Turtle Island to these Ling plant farmers. He wasn't ignorant and understood this method that completely upended the traditional Ling farming methods, and would create endless trouble for him if it was revealed. Before he was strong enough, there could only be one outcome. With so many Ling plant farmers, he didn't need to worry at all, and only needed to send a few people to supervise the production. This was a hen that would continuously lay golden eggs. Island Master really is powerful. Outside the island, Liao Qicheng's voice passed over the distance. Zuomo leapt into the air and welcomed him. He saw Liao Qicheng and Su Zhengwei come together and raised his folded hands in a greeting. Mr. Liao, Elder Su, long time no see. Su Zhengwei hurriedly returned the greeting, and his tone held a thread of awe. Island Master, long time no see. If it was said he had just been shocked at the power of Zuomo and the others, now he really felt awe. The enormous Tian family had been turned to dust in the blink of an eye. The power of this Turtle Island wasn't just awe-inspiring, it was terrifying. Liao Qicheng laughed brightly. Island Master's fight tactics are uncanny and will be a classic. This is just good luck. Luck. Zuomo pretended to be humble as he spoke, but he still felt proud inside. Liao Qicheng shook his head and said, Luck? Island Master is incorrect. Who can destroy the Tian family based on luck? Only people with great charisma and skill can do it. Even that battalion ranking can't stay still. 32. a rank that even the Suling Battalion has never held. It seems the name of Turtle Island is going to spread through the entire Cloud Sea. Jia. Zuomo tried to act humble, but he still couldn't help but smile. These were clearly the mannerisms of a lowly person that had accomplished their dream. However, it had not gone to his head. He hurriedly said, "That doesn't count, doesn't count. What have you come for this time?" He saw Liao Qichong say with a smile, "This one has come this time for 3 matters." Zuomo replied, "What 3 matters?" "The first matter is to congratulate Island Master for your great victory." Zuomo's expression did not change. He asked, "Many thanks, Mr. Liao. Then the second matter?" "The second is about the Azure Ether. This one has remembered the Azure Ether matter that Island Master mentioned, and has searched around. This one finally found it recently, and is delivering it personally, as to not distract Island Master from your affairs." When Liao Qichong finished speaking, he took out a transparent glass bottle. Inside the bottle was a ball of azure substance that was like cloud or mist, but not that slowly flowed. As expected, this was Azure Ether. Zuomo couldn't help but show joy. The meridional Azure Ether formation on the island only lacked the Azure Ether, and it would then be perfect. In the battle this time, the power of the meridional Azure Ether formation had showed itself. If it wasn't for the meridional Azure Ether formation, and there was only the Inyang Thunder Cloud formation, the enemy would have managed to break through long before Vermilion Bird Camp had fully prepared. "What is the selling price of this Azure Ether?" Zuomo's eyes were burning. Liao Qichong smiled slightly and said, "This is hard to find, but its price is not high. This bottle of Azure Ether is a present for Island Master. It is this one's gift of congratulations for Island Master's victory." Finishing, he gently handed the glass bottle to Zuomo. Zuomo received it, and it disappeared in a flash. There was no shame on his face. "Then many thanks, Brother Liao." Liao Qichong smiled slightly. "The bottle is crystal clean light bottle. It is a bottle that is good for capturing substances such as clouds, mist and flowing it. So this is for Island Master as well." "Many thanks, Brother Liao." Zuomo was slightly moved this time. To say of nothing else, just this mannerism of gifting was not something normal people could afford to do. "Then the third matter?" Zuomo asked proactively. He also knew the other wouldn't give him talismans for no reason. He must have a request for the third matter. As long it was not a difficult matter, he would consent. "This third matter is this one wants to ask Island Master for mercy," Liao Qichong said slowly. "Mercy? Mercy for what?" Zuomo did not understand. Liao Qichong sighed lightly. "When this one heard that some businesses had allied with the Tian family to scheme against your island, this one knew it was not good. Yet my warnings did not carry weight, and they did not listen to this one's urgings. With Island Master's great victory, they are fearful and cannot rest at night. Originally, this one did not plan on interfering in this matter. One needs to pay their debts, but they have some connections to this one, and have pleaded to me for days. This one really cannot bear it, and has come with a thick face to ask for a favor from Island Master. Please spare them." Zuomo's face turned dark. He hadn't expected Liao Qichong to ask for mercy on behalf of those people. Those businesses had allied with the Tian family to suppress him from the beginning. He opened cultivation classes. They tried to stop it by using their power. Then they had a share in hiring Ning Yi, Yuan Xian and Gu Minggong. Zuomo was never a generous person. It was the opposite. He was vengeful and would settle his debts. He would repay favors and take revenge. From the beginning, he had noted it down and waited to settle the debts later. Liao Qichong actually was asking for mercy for these people. Liao Qichong knew that this request was one that difficult. Even though the battle between Ning Yi's group and Turtle Island was a mystery, but it was possible to see the life-threatening danger involved from the death of Yuan Xian. No one would easily spare those that had almost killed them. They are extremely regretful and know it is not possible to escape their crime. Every family is willing to give their leader to Island Master to determine their fate. Also, Island Master, please accept these 10 pieces of 6th grade Jingshi. They only hope to preserve some part of their family. Island Master, please spare them. Liao Qichong took out a yellow little bag. and handed it to Zhuemo. Zhuemo's expression eased slightly, but he did not immediately take the jingsher. He looked at Liao Qichong and said, "Those that were responsible for starting this matter need to take responsibility." Liao Qichong understood that Zhuemo's words were a death sentence for these people. Those clans would definitely deliver the heads of these people for the sake of their families, and to calm Turtle Island's anger. He nodded crisply and said, "All right." Zhuemo now took the jingsher and said, "This time, I will spare them because of Brother Liao. If they have other thoughts in the future, then do not blame this one for being impolite. That is natural." Liao Qichong smiled as he was relieved of a great burden. He hadn't wanted to take this hot potato, but they had slowly ground down his resolve, so he had forced himself to come. However, the success of this negotiation was also beneficial for him. His reputation among the businesses would grow, and no one would openly contend with this businesses. Zhuemo was also very content. The 10 pieces of 6th grade jingsher was a great surprise, and by executing those responsible, it would intimated the businesses of Suling City. This was the best result. Turtle Island had just swallowed the Tian family, and did not have a stable foundation. Even though he did not know why Suling's sect had not made a sound this time, the other definitely was paying attention in secret. It was not hard to make trouble for those little businesses. But for Zhuemo and the others that had recently come to Suling City, it was not a wise decision to make enemies everywhere. Rampaging and charging everywhere was something only a rash person would do. How could the cunning Zhuemo do such unprofitable business? Since the other side had given Zhuemo enough to show their respect, Zhuemo was naturally willing to take a steps off the stage. Getting rich without a lifting a finger was the best plan. After all, the fat piece of meat, the Tian family, could not be digested in a short period of time. Chapter 475, Meridional Azure Ether Formation. Zhuemo stopped in the air above Turtle Island. Looking down at the enormous island, he couldn't help but feel emotional. Suddenly he spread his arms, and gathered all the Ling power in his body. Pia pia pia. 108 meridional azure ether spikes shot out of the earth and silently floated around him. Zhuemo's expression became serious. He took out the crystal clear light bottle from his ring, and lightly plucked out the stopper. A ball of azure ether continuously flooded out of the mouth. This azure ether was extraordinarily beautiful. It was cloud-like and mist-like, but not either of them with an indigo azure color. When it wafted out, it did not dissipate but floated in the sky and slowly swirled. Zhuemo's 10 figures flew furiously. Streaks of Ling power lights rose and extinguished on his fingertips, the light blooming and profound. Zhuemo's eyes suddenly became bright as he shouted, "Ha!" A streak of light left his hand and entered the azure ether. The azure ether suddenly froze and then exploded. It turned to 108 threads of azure smoke, and shot into the meridional azure ether spikes. Zhuemo's expression became even more stern. His right hand moved and a meridional azure ether spike flew in front of him. Zhuemo didn't seem to make a move, but a thread of great day banded flame appeared soundlessly in front of him that swallowed that meridional azure ether spike. The azure ether within the spike was stimulated and shifted restlessly, causing even the great day banded flame to be tinged with azure. About an hour later, the azure tinge in the great day banded flame retreated, and it became a golden flame once more with differently colored bands. The meridional azure ether spike once again returned to Zhuemo's hand. There was a long and narrow azure ether seal was on the body of the spike, which now glowed and exuded a faint power. Zhuemo showed a satisfied expression on his face. His right hand moved and another spike flew. The refinement process started again. He forged the spikes one after the other. He would rest when he was tired, and then continue when his Ling power was replenished. As he continuously forged, his skill became more practiced, and he had a deeper understanding of the azure ether seal that caused his speed to increase. After 3 days, the reforging of the 108 meridional azure ether spikes was completed. The reforged meridional azure ether spikes floated around him like stars circling the moon. Zhuemo could faintly feel the unique communication between them. There were 6 different azure ether seals, each of them with their own power and abilities that floated through Zhuomo's mind. He seemed to understand something. Almost unconsciously, he raised both of his hands. There seemed to be an invisible string that caused 108 meridional azure ether spikes to float upward as though they were being pulled. The azure ether seals on the spokes lit up one by one. When the azure ether seal on the last meridional azure ether spike lit up, an invisible force suddenly surrounded Zhuomo's body shook slightly, like the water in the pond was full and about to overflow. Zhuomo did not even think as his hands suddenly pressed down on the empty air and shouted, "In!" Like arrows leaving the bowstring, the 108 meridional azure ether spikes turned to 108 dashes of azure light that entered all corners of Turtle Island. An enormous azure light shell then covered the island like a bowl being placed upside down. Many Xiuzha were disturbed by the change and flew into the sky. Their attention were all attracted to this thin light shell. Zhuomo released a breath as though he was relieved of a great burden. He raised his head to look at the azure light shield above his head. This layer of light was extremely thin, and seemed as though it would shatter upon contact like eggshell. Zhuomo knew that Jindan Xiuzha definitely could not break through it, and it would hold unless a Yuanying Xiuzha attacked. Even then a Yuanying Xiuzha would not have an easy time breaking through this thin shell of light. The defensive power of the meridional azure ether formation was extremely strong. If he could find better materials, better azure ether, the power of the formation would grow to the point that even Yuanying could not break it. Zhuomo quickly threw this unrealistic notion to the back of his mind. All the wealth he had, even added together, wouldn't be enough to forge such a set of meridional azure ether spikes. The shield of light gradually dimmed until it could not be seen. The sky seemed to return to what it was before, but Zhuomo knew that the defensive power of the formation had more than doubled. Zhuomo wanted to make his own nest a fort. Zhuomo considered whether he should construct a few formation battle watchtowers, but then he ended the thought. The power of the formation battle watchtowers were slightly useless to the present Turtle Island. In the past, everyone's skill was not very high, and their enemies were not strong. But Zhuomo didn't even remember how many Jindan they had encountered. If conflict occurred, the power of the formation battle watchtower would not be sufficient. Also, their present power was not something that their past could compare to. After experiencing the sealed extinction battlefield, with the help of the black processing meditation mat, the formations that originated in Mo matrices, the Ling Dan and Ling foods, as long as Zhuomo had it, he would not be miserly. Many of the Xiuzha of Vermilion Bird Camp had reached the third stratum of Ningmai. Even Golden Crow Camp had many that reached the third stratum. Becoming Jindan was the right path. One normal Jindan Xiuzha was equivalent to hundreds of Ningmai Xiuzha. But Zhuomo didn't have good solutions to aid core formation. Right now with his three powers as one, his Ling power's strange stagnant period of no growth had finally been broken. Of course with benefit, there came loss. Now the strange cycle of his Ling power growth was broken. His Mo physique had instead stopped growing. Even if Zhuomo cultivated his Mo physique, what grew was his Ling and spiritual power. Zhuomo suspected that the growth of the Mo physique was being limited by his Ling and spiritual power, and would only grow once all three had reached the same level. Due to the pause in his Ling power growth in the past, Zhuomo's present Ling power was the lowest in the entire camp, other than when compared to the flower Yao. This was a great source of dejection for him. Zhuomo had asked Pu Yao and Wei Xing if there was any ideas about core formation. However, the two did not know. They were not Xiuzha in the end. Zhuomo planned on asking Su Zhengwei or Liao Qichong in the future. If he could hire a few Jindan, the power of the camp would go up another level. Right now, Zhuomo had other affairs to attend to. The Earth Spirit Matter conveying stone was put at the center of the entire island. This treasure was really wondrous, causing the Ling energy of the entire island to increase instantly. The Ling fields were affected the most, and the grades of all the Ling fields were increased by a fraction. Ling fields of higher grades could raise Ling plants of higher grades, and could produce Ling plants of better quality. Zhuomo also moved the high-grade Ling plants he had found from the Tian family estate, planted near the Earth Spirit Matter conveying stone. One of them was a 5th-grade Fury Maple. Its leaves were as red as fire, and the trunk was a dark red. When one walked near, they could clearly feel a wave of heat being exuded from the plant. It was a rare fire-ling plant, and each leaf it produced was worth 1,000 jingsher. The fruit it produced was called fire-eye fruit, and was used to forge fire element talismans. The other plant was thousand-finger guanyin orchid. This flower was 5th grade and shaped like the fingers of the guanyin. If it bloomed, it would have thousands of flowers and was named so. This flower was deeply coveted by Diana Xiao, and was greatly beneficial for their samadhi. It was also the raw material for many ling medicines. The thousand-flinger guanyin orchid would bloom every decade, and was extremely rare due to this. Zuoyamo had been shocked and joyous that the Tian family had 2 such rare ling plants. Compared to these 2 ling plants, the sonic lightning walnut wasn't much. Old Master Tian had started off dealing in ling plants, and naturally had collected more than these 2 plants in his collection. There were also many rare 4th grade plants, but they were now all in Zuomo's purse now. He had moved the entire ling plant garden to Turtle Island. He dug up all of the Tian family treasures. Even the treasure safes that were hidden deep in the ground had been dug out under the guidance of Lil Black. As for the Sky Ray treasure lens, Zuoemo gifted it to Gongsun Shitty. This talisman was suited for battle generals, and was akin to giving wings to Lil Mississippi. The richness of the gains this time surpassed his predictions, but there were also losses. Wei Xing Xixiang and Zhongru were recuperating from their wounds. Zhongru's wounds were not too serious, but eldest Xixiang was still unconscious. Zuoemo was very worried. Thinking about it now, Ning Yi's power still shook his mind. Compared to Ning Yi, Old Master Tian wasn't on the same level. Zuoemo hadn't put great value on talismans in the past, but this battle really called his attention to them. If it wasn't for the surprise performance of the black gold seal soldier, and the black sword in eldest Xixiang's hands, they would have died back then. The power that could be expressed by powerful talismans were terrifying. He finally understood now why so many Xiozha would furiously pursue talismans. One didn't feel it in daily life, but when one encountered a true expert, they finally knew what it was to struggle with each step and not have a solution. What caused all this, other than the others' high cultivation, was the talisman on their hands. One talismans could decide life and death. They had forged many talismans, but there was never a talismans that possessed the terrifying power of the blood fiend Assure umbrella. Zuoemo felt that they had not invested enough energy in this area. Truly top talismans were almost always forged by the Xiozha who used it. People wouldn't sell these kind of talismans, and what could be bought on the market were outstanding, like the Blue Soul Cold Light Armor, but these were not considered top-tier talismans. Zuoemo decided to forge a powerful talisman. Otherwise the dangers of the last incident would occur again. He thought of a person. Tied up with the immortal tying chains, Gu Minggong's spirits were low. Not eating or drinking for a few days wasn't a big problem for him, but how long was it since he has had to endure such a thing? His mind was blank. Ever since 30 years ago, when his forging and seal-making skills had matured, he had lived a luxurious life. No matter where he went, which person did not greet him with a smiling face. But right now he was a prisoner. He was very clear that the other had not killed him because he probably had an interest in his forging and seal creation skills. If he was of no use, there would only be one outcome for him. He felt unparalleled terror. At this moment, with a creak, the door was pushed open. A young entered his vision, the one that had captured him. He knew the time to decide his fate had arrived. Chapter 476. Soul-setting divine light. Zuoemo stared at Gu Minggong silently. The pressure brought by the silence almost caused Gu Minggong to suffocate. Endless terror spread through his heart. He felt the other's gaze seemed to be looking at something dead, or a lamb waiting for slaughter. I don't want to die. What he did not know was that Zuomo's silence was not on purpose to pressure him, but because he was in heated discussion with Pu Yao and Wei. I want him to work for me. In the sea of consciousness, Zuoemo shrugged with a matter-of-fact expression. But he is a Jindan and has a higher cultivation than I do. He's also skilled in formations, so it is very dangerous. What suggestions do you have? Pu Yao said unconcernedly. If you only want the forging knowledge in his mind, you can just draw out his soul. Draw his soul. This phrase caused Swo to shudder uncontrollably. Even though it is slightly cruel, it is very effective. If you can draw out his soul, you can quickly possess the knowledge that belongs to him. How about it? Are you moved? Pu Yao's eerie red pupil narrowed, and the slight smile on the corner of his mouth carried a coldness that was unique to him. He continued. Of course, there is nothing that is perfect in the world. You will receive his memories and comprehensions, but it will also affect your mind. Zhuomo's hairs rose up when hearing this, but he couldn't stop himself from asking. What are the effects? Usually a personality split, a change in personality, etc. Who knows? Everyone's played about with the soul for so many years, but no one truly understands, Pu Yao said irresponsibly. Zhuo almost immediately blocked Pu Yao's method. He turned his face. Wei, do you have any methods? Wei thought for a moment and slowly opened. We can only look in the direction of Jinji. Jinji? Zhuomo's eyes lit up, but then his brow creased. His cultivation is higher than mine, so I cannot put Jinji in him. He's also skilled in formations, so it might not be able to restrain him. I know a type of ancient Jinji that might work. Wei was very conservative in his words. Zhuomo's eyes lit up. What Jinji? Tell me. Pu Yao also had curiosity on his face. Wei's existence was more ancient than his, and he was also curious what kind of strange and wondrous Jinji Wei could produce. I feel we must first discuss payment, Wei said smilingly. In this moment, Zhuo felt Wei's expression was almost the exact same as Pu Yao. His expression instantly crumbled. Pu Yao was a calamity. Whomever stayed with him would be affected. Even this guy's heart was black. Seriously. Zhuo wailed. Wei was not affected and smiled at Zhuo. Zhuo quickly surrendered. All right, what payment do you want? Guard camp cultivates Mo skills. It is not suited for Pu. Give it to me, Wei said with the same smile. Pu Yao's eyes instantly narrowed and became as long and cold as a blade, his entire body exuding an extremely dangerous presence. Wei was not affected by this, as though he did not detect the change. My previous master was a Mo, and I understand more about how to cultivate Mo skills than Pu. I can get them to grow more quickly. Also, to date guard camp hasn't produced even one battle general. This is enough to show that Pu Yao is not suited to teaching guard camp. Pu Yao's expression was unfriendly. His entire person was like a cold blade that was unsheathed. The black robes he was wearing flapping despite the lack of wind, as though he would leap and consume his enemy. For Pu Yao, guard camp was something he was used to while away his time. He didn't find it so important, but that did not mean he would allow someone to take it away from him. How could the proud Pu Yao tolerate such a matter happening to him? The black fire in the sea of consciousness seemed to solidify. Zhuo felt his scalp turn numb. Both of these were people he could not afford to offend. How had he been pulled into the battle between them? This was dangerous. Too dangerous for his life. He didn't dare to make a sound. He suspected that if he showed even the slightest bit of agreement, Pu Yao would tear him to pieces on the spot. Pu Yao's voice was bone-chillingly cold. Jinji? Who doesn't know Jinji? Just one type of Jinji, and you want guard camp? You are delusional. A certain fake gentleman won't teach, I'll teach you. This Jinji is called Purple Netherworld Curse. Wei's faint voice interrupted. Purple Netherworld Curse can only be cast by Rahula Yao. If there isn't not enough spiritual power, it would backlash on the user. Pu Yao stilled and his expression became uglier. Other than Purple Netherworld Curse, there is the Needle Ghost Curse. The Needle Ghost Curse needs 13 bone needles. Those aren't easy to find. Pu Yao's face became increasingly dark. He suddenly smiled coldly. Oh, then I want to see what your Jinji is. So you have agreed? Wei looked fearlessly at Pu Yao. Pu Yao said proudly, with this guy's power, a skill that can be realized at the spot, without any side effect. If you can do it, so what if I give you guard camp? Zhuo wanted to say weakly, Big brothers, guard camp is actually mine. But intelligence caused him to keep his mouth closed. He couldn't offend any of these two big bosses. Suddenly, his mind became alert. Fight. Keep fighting. The more you fight, the more benefits Ji gets. How did the phrase go? The crane and the clam fights, while the fisherman gets the rice. He closed his mouth tightly and didn't say a word. If that's the case, then I will be disrespectful. Wei smiled warmly, but his words hid needles among the cotton that caused Pu Yao's face to become a fraction uglier. There is nothing in verbal battle. I'm still waiting for you wondrous Jinji to broaden my visions, Pu Yao said ambiguously. Wei finally said lightly, this Jinji is called soul-setting divine light. Hearing this name, Pu Yao's expression suddenly changed. His abruptly opening pupil was full of disbelief. Soul-setting divine light. You actually comprehend soul-setting divine light. It was the first time Zuo had seen such an expression on Pu Yao's face. There was a shock of terror within the amazement and deep disbelief. Soul-setting divine light? What was that? Zuo's mind was full of puzzlement. If it could cause Pu Yao to lose his composure, then it must be very powerful. Wei still had that same gentle smile, but at the time, it was full of immeasurability. I tried to learn it incidentally, but I didn't learn it. Who are you really? Pu Yao looked hard at Wei. If it wasn't that they would live and die together and coexist together, he would have not been able to stop himself from attacking. He suddenly found that he knew pitifully little about Wei's origins. Other than knowing Wei was once the gravestone armor of the former corps commander, he knew nothing else. I am Wei, too. Wei smiled as usual, the smile warm as the sunlight of the dawn. Zuo saw the two's tense face-off and instantly became nervous. Big brothers, this is an sea of consciousness. He instantly threw the idea of the fisherman getting the rice to the back of his head and tried to make peace. Let's talk peacefully, let's talk peacefully. What is this soul-setting divine light? Is it very powerful? Wei smiled at him. Pu Yao said coldly, if even you didn't learn it, how can you teach him? Wei smiled. My talent is not good. It is normal that I could not learn it. Pu Yao seemed to hear a joke. You feel this boy is talented? Even though he is my student, but his talents, very normal. Zuo didn't accept that, and his face suddenly became black. What? Ji's talents were not good? Ji's talents are not good? Zuo shot back. How was it that was crying and shouting to take Ji as a student? TSK, burning the bridge after crossing it, eating and wiping clean then saying Ji's talent isn't good? Pu Yao's old face turned red as he coughed violently. Wei had a wry smile on his face. Yes, you can't be that kind of Yao. How about you give this student to me? Don't push it. Pu Yao recovered his cold smirk. I'm not a little child who doesn't know anything. Soul-setting divine light is one of the ancient great 9 divine lights. Is it easy to cultivate? If he really can learn it, you also have the qualifications to be his teacher. Otherwise, go find a cold place and stay there. All right. Wei nodded without hesitation. He then reached out with his right hand after speaking. Black mist came out of his right hand and quickly gathered into a black ball. It was possible to see dots of light within the black ball that made it even more mysterious. Wei smiled at Zuo, and the black ball flew towards Zuo and entered his body. Zuo's mind blanked as he froze where he stood. In this instant, he felt an enormous and heterogeneous flood of mental thoughts swallowing him like an avalanche. Zuo seemed to be situated in a world of strange light. Everywhere was color. Zuo had never seen such a variety and richness of color before. He thought that the colors in the entire world must be in here. Light. These rich colors were all kinds of light. Some were dim, some were bright, some were vivid in color, others as black as ink. They twisted, changed, were destroyed and created again. They lived and died in a cycle, changed constantly and were so vast that Zuo could not see the borders. This was an ocean of light. There seemed to be a voice above Zuo's head, but no matter how hard he tried to hear, he could not hear it clearly. But if he decided to ignore it, the voice would burrow into his ears again. There was only him alone in this rainbow world. In Zuo's sea of consciousness, Pu Yao's face showed shock again. Imprint. The imprint of the soul-setting divine light. Wei smiled slightly. It is fortunate it has not dissipated. Otherwise it would be a pity. Pu Yao remained silent. He was thinking hard in his mind. If it was said that he had been very shocked that Wei understood how to cultivate the soul-setting divine light, then Wei possessing the imprint of the soul-setting divine light made him even more confident of the guess he had. The soul-setting divine light was one of the ancient Great Nine divine lights. The number of people who had ever succeeded in cultivating it could be counted on the fingers. In the present day, most cultivators wouldn't have even heard of it. This great skill was famous in the ancient era, and definitely had its outstanding aspects. Since Wei possessed the imprint of the soul-setting divine light, then he should have a direct connection to the great ones that had created this great skill. Soul-setting divine light. Soul-setting divine light. A bolt of lightning flashed in Pu Yao's mind, and his pupil suddenly widened. Chapter 477 Danger Soul-Setting Divine Light. The name would occasionally be referenced in some ancient records. It was said that it was made by the heroes of the Sky Pool tribe, fantastical in its effects, enormously famed, and was ranked as one of the 9 great divine lights. Pu Yao had never seen the soul-setting divine light, and did not know what it looked like, or what abilities it had. It wasn't just the soul-setting divine light. He had never seen any of the other divine lights before. The divine lights mostly appeared in the early stages of the ancient era, and then later disappeared from the records. No one knew why the divine lights had gradually disappeared, but this was not a strange occurrence. Throughout history it was the 9 divine lights the only thing to be lost to time? Many secret methods and wondrous techniques had disappeared over the millennia. Each were forever lost in the vast rivers of history. Sky Pool tribe? What are you to Sky Pool tribe? Pu Yao stared at Wei. For the first time today, Wei had a shocked expression. As expected from the Encyclopedia of Yao Arts, you even know of my Sky Pool tribe. He then nodded. You are right, I am from the Sky Pool tribe. The amount of information Pu Yao had about the Sky Pool tribe was pitifully little, but within that pitiful amount, it was clear that Sky Pool tribe had been a tribe with powerful people, and had dominated for a time. The two sank into silence. Pu Yao did not know what to say. His understanding of the Sky Pool tribe was limited to this, and there was no meaning to knowing that Wei came from the Sky Pool tribe. Wei seemed to be thinking of something, and had a reminiscent expression on his face. No matter how famed or powerful the tribe was, it could not stand against the ruthless advance of time. Just like those secret methods and techniques, it also had disappeared in the long river of history. All kinds of colored dazzling light continuously changed and shifted in front of Zuoremo, coming near, and then jumping far away like swimming fish. A bright green light swam in front of Zuoremo reflexively. Zuoremo reached out with a hand. When the green light came into contact with Zuoremo's hand, a slender flow burrowed into his mind. This slender flow contained great amounts of information that was hard to comprehend, profound and unpredictable. What was most wondrous was that thread of vitality within it. This thread of vitality was weak, but the presence was powerful and ancient. That wasn't right. There seemed to be a voice in his mind. As though he was possessed, Zuoremo relaxed his hand, and that bright green light disappeared within the ocean of light like a fish. Zuoremo shook his head, and wanted to clear his mind. This world of light was like a fantasy realm that he did not know what to do with. Fortunately, he remembered everything that Wei had told him previously. Soul-setting divine light. He needed to find soul-setting divine light. Was the soul-setting divine light hidden among these lights? Zuoremo thought as he searched the lights. He saw a deep red light, and when his mind moved, that deep red light flew towards him. Zuoremo reached out and touched the red light. A burning and ferocious energy quickly spread up his arm. Zuoremo felt as though his body was burning. For some unknown reason, the feeling of wrongness increased. He released his hand and the red light instantly swam away. Zuoremo gradually started to understand. If he thought of any light in his mind, that light would fly into his hand. What he needed to do was to find the soul-setting divine light among these numerous lights. Zuoremo's brow creased. There were more than billions of lights in here. If he was to try them one by one, then it would be like finding a grain of sand in the ocean. There had to be a way. Zuoremo sank into thought. He did not notice the lights had changed. You feel he can comprehend soul-setting divine light? Pu Yao looked at Wei and asked. Even if there is the imprint, the difficulty would not be low. You have such confidence in him? Wei shook his head and said, I do not have confidence that he will succeed. He then said, the soul-setting divine light is extremely hard to cultivate, and even within the tribe in the past, the number of those who had successfully learned it could be counted on the fingers. The decline of the Sky Pool tribe was due to the loss of the soul-setting divine light. None of the 9 great divine lights are easy to learn. The divine lights have stringent requirements even though we do not know what requirements there are. Then why do give him the imprint? Pu Yao asked. Wei said calmly, in the past its purpose was to leave behind a seed for the tribe. The Sky Pool tribe has long been gone, and I am just the gravestone armor now. There is no meaning in keeping it. So why can't I give it to him? Pu Yao didn't know what to say. This isn't our world now. Wei smiled, his voice deep and calm. The world belongs to him now. I smell danger from this, Pu Yao suddenly said. Wei smiled slightly. Of course, how can there not be any risk in learning such an ultimate skill? Just as Zuomo's brow was creased as he thought about what to do, the light in the surroundings suddenly moved. Unguarded, Zuomo wailed. A red light swept his body. He felt as though he was being boiled in a Dan cauldron. The fire burning every inch of muscle. The heart-boring pain came like a tide, swallowing him. How long has it been since he felt pain like this? Ever since he possessed Golden Crow fire, normal flames could not harm him at all. The Great Day Banded flame was even more domineering and ferocious, providing further protection. A rare flame even among 6th grade flames. It had been too long since he felt the pain of being burned. The pain of every part of his soul being burned had almost caused Zuomo to lose his consciousness. At this time, a cold and serene white light fell on his body. The burning pain suddenly became bone-aching cold, like ice blades scraping against his bones. Zuomo's body uncontrollably trembled. What the motherfucking was going on? There was only this one question in his blank mind. The 9 great divine lights all have their wonders. The so-called divine lights are the lights that were born the instant the chaos formed. The soul-setting divine light is one of them, Wei said conversationally. Pu Yao was also deeply enticed by the secrets Wei was speaking of. He showed shock and disbelief. Born accompanying the beginning of chaos. There are treasures like this? It really is a treasure. Wei nodded. The most precious part of the divine lights are related to this. Each thread of divine light contains various amounts of the information about the beginning of everything and the birth of chaos. Pu Yao's pupils suddenly widened as he murmured, Impossible. He couldn't help but show an yearning expression. There were patterns contained in the manifestations of everything in the world. It was the path that the strong always pursued. No matter if it was Xiuzhe, Yao, or Mo, once they had cultivated to a certain stage, their end goals were unusual in its agreement and similarity. And that is the most precious part of the divine light. Wei did not explain and continued. But this is also the hardest part of passing on the divine lights. The divine lights were born with the birth of sky and earth, and is hard to understand, but it is also powerful. If the cultivator is not careful, they can turn to ash within the divine light. Pu Yao's expression suddenly changed. His blood eye narrowed to a blade as he said harshly, You want to harm him? He had thought there would be a possibility of danger, but hadn't expected it to be so dangerous. Harm him? Wei smiled faintly. Just some danger. Remember, you and I are also on the boat. If the boat flips, I also cannot escape. Pu Yao's expression eased slightly. That was right. If Zuomo had an accident, Wei couldn't escape either. Right now they were 3 ants on the same branch. No one could escape. How much of a grasp of it do you have? Pu Yao asked in an unfriendly tone. No grasp at all. Wei seemed to not see Pu Yao's pot-black expression and said, Right now his 3 powers have merged to one, a state which is like those ancient forebearers. If I have to say who is most likely to succeed, then it probably is him, even if the chance is small. Your actions are very dangerous. It has taken me into the danger as well. Pu Yao stared coldly at Wei, looking as though he was going to fight the moment they had a disagreement. If the imprint was not used soon, it would have dissipated. Wei's voice carried sorrow. He raised his head and gazed at Pu Yao. If it was you, would you take the gamble? Pu Yao was speechless. Wei was right. If this was him, he would definitely gamble as well. He knew just how valuable this imprint was. If this imprint could be traded, a big sect like Kunlun would be willing to pay any price. It was a priceless pressure. As the ancient tribes have disappeared, the paths of cultivation have diverged. I do not know if the soul-setting divine light is still usable, but I cannot sit idle and watch as it disappears. Wei sighed lightly. This is probably the last of the divine lights in this world. Pu Yao was still silent. Isn't it the same with your archaic wasteland sacrificial art? Could you bear for it to disappear? Didn't you think the same when you took him as your student? Wei looked in the distance as he murmured. This is not our world anymore, but it was once our world. Would you or I be willing to leave nothing behind? Pu Yao remained silent as before. Countless lights continuously swept across Suomo's body. Suomo felt as though he was floating and sinking in hell, experiencing all kinds of feelings. Each destructive light ray almost destroyed him, and each vital life rays restored him. It was a cycle of life and death. At one moment, he felt at the top of the world, and then in the next felt worse than death. All kinds and types of light energies. Each ray was different in effect, and the taste was naturally different. Suomo felt as though he was a chicken about to be roasted as he was rolled around in all kinds of spices. Suomo forgot about the soul-setting divine light along the way. These damned lights. Suomo gritted and wanted to cry. He was unable to move at all. These rays of light were not under his control, and did not show any of the friendliness there was at the beginning. What was worse was that no matter what ray was being shined on his body, his mind was always clear. This meant that he had a good taste of every ray of light. No more. Suomo wanted to shout for aid. There were billions of light rays in here, if he went through all of them. Hell. This was definitely hell. Save me. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.